Okay, so it's time for another countdown to classic conversation, and today we are going to be reviewing Phase 3 of Season of Discovery. With the Phase 4 news just around the corner, we figured now is the right time to get into it and break down whether or not we thought Phase 3 worked well, what parts we liked, what parts we didn't like, and obviously continue on from conversations we've had recently on the show on maybe what's going on with SoD. It seems to be going through a funny period right now and just having a chat about it. After that, we'll see if we've got time to discuss a little bit of fresh vanilla with the stuff that's going on at Deviate to Light and see if we can break that down a little bit. But first and foremost, we'll talk about SoD and the looking back at Phase 3, and hopefully soon we'll get the news that we can get on the show next week and talk about what's coming in Phase 4. So to help me do this, we have the following guests. Now, I've just spent off stream, I did hit the record button to test everyone's volume levels, and we randomly got into a very heated 20-minute discussion about drink walking in World of Warcraft. And I won't say what was said, but I was just yelling at Arcos for the last 20 minutes, who very gracefully took every blow I gave him on the chin as I fucking lit him up for being a toxic piece of shit. Arcos, baby, how are you?
Hey, yeah, I'm doing fine. I'm still in recovery from those punches.
I'm sorry I called you all those names, but I regret nothing as well.
I've been called worse.
And joining Arcos, we have an old favorite of mine, someone we don't talk to anywhere near as much as I would like. I touch pigs. A lot of you know him. A lot of you love him, mate. How are you?
Hey, brother, I'm doing good. I just got pulled up on a mage in Angora Crater, and I'm struggling for my life. But glad to be on, man. I'm excited to talk about SoD.
Oh, good. I believe in you. You can do it. All right, guys. I'm a bit miffed on this one, Arcos, because I don't really know where to start when we do this review. Maybe you guys can guide me, but there's so many things that float through the mind. Like, do we, fucking sit and spend 20 minutes again discussing incursions? Do we start with Sunken Temple? And I know you're going to want to rip into fucking Sunken Temple and talk about the difficulty again and, the late change in itemization and blah, blah, blah. And then there's a bunch of other stuff to talk about as well. And, I'll let it be player's choice. So Arcos, we'll let Pig pick the next topic, but we'll give you first pick in the draft. Arcos, what would you like to discuss first when breaking down what happened with Phase 3 of SoD?
Wow. Think my biggest kind of pet peeve with Phase 3 is the repeatability and the difficulty levels don't keep people coming back, right?
All right, well then, it sounds like we should start in on Sunken Temple then.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so let's discuss the raid. We're looking back, and we've reviewed not only obviously the whole team works on it, but the raid seems to be built by Tim for the most part, with a lot of other team members contributing as well. And then we have things that maybe go beyond Tim's realm as well, such as the itemization and maybe, the choice of difficulty and whatnot. So if we just focus first and foremost on the raid encounters, forget the difficulty for now. Let's just talk about the mechanics. Forget the gear, all that shit. Just talk about Tim's work in designing a relatively fun new raid or the remake of Sunken Temple. I am of the belief that the feedback on this one, once again, has been overwhelmingly positive in terms of how the encounters work. We praised Tim's work in BFD. We mostly praised Tim's work in Gnomeregan. I know that I've been a big fan of those two raids. And I was equally impressed with Sunken Temple. Once again, I just feel like he's on a fucking amazing hitting streak. Not to, suck the guy's dick too much, but, as for a rookie design encounter, the guy's having a stellar first season. He's fucking knocking it out of the park in all of these raids for mine. I really enjoyed encounters like the Dream Scythe and Weaver. I think was a highlight for me. And I think that pre-nerf Iranicus was really cool. Obviously got nerfed pretty quickly. I just feel like, you know, there's a couple of snooze fests. You know, the I don't know how much there is you can do with the, I forget the name of the fight where, you know, the ghosts keep spawning and you've got to deal with them. I wouldn't call it a snooze fest, but it's a little bit like, whatever. But for the most part, I think he just fucking nailed it again. I would love to hear from a more seasoned raider in Arcos. Arcos, what do you have to say about Tim's work in Sunken Temple just with the encounters?
I agree. I think the design overall is good. Especially the encounters. I like the trash as well.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the 3 raids he has designed in SoD, I prefer Nomergan and Sunken Temple over PFT.
Okay.
But by a slim margin. I think Sunken Temple is actually a very fun raid. It's the bosses are varied. You're not just repeating the same old kind of recipe, just in different clothes. So I think that's a very good indicator of what he's doing and like how he's thinking about trying to spice things up, bringing in like these type of kind of mechanics that you would expect from later expansions. I honestly think that pretty much every boss in Sunken Temple has more things going on that are, you know, like Wrath, Kata, retail-esque designs rather than classic designs, which I think is good. And yeah, I couldn't really give him many negatives regarding just the encounter design.
Okay. If I press you, if I couldn't get you to say one thing that gave you the shits in Sunken Temple encounters, you can't think of anything?
I mean, we can go through the bosses, I guess. Like, I don't mind the first boss mechanics, but you just skip them now, so you don't think about it at all.
Right.
The second boss I think is very interesting design, but I guess for average raiders it can be a little bit boring having to run around and find the boss. There is one annoying thing on second boss. If you get eaten and you're inside, sometimes you kind of move. So if you're melee, you're not in front of the boss anymore, so you can't hit him. So you need to constantly be turning your camera with the mouse. Or if you've done the rainbow quest, you get a tabard that turns you towards your target, and you can spam that in your ability macros.
Right.
I think maybe something that was legitimately annoying is the Atolite Defenders and Jamaran and Ogun being different based on region. So the order on Atolite Defenders is not the same in the same reset necessarily for EUNA and OCE. And I'm not sure if Jamaran and Ogun are the same, but they swap every week, so you just do the opposite of what you did before.
If I made you rank them right now, the 3 raids that we've gotten, what's going in the 1, 2, and 3 slot in terms of your preference? It sounds like BFD's number 3 for you. You put Sunken Temple or Noma at the number 1 slot?
I probably like Sunken Temple a little bit more, but that might also be because it's 20-man, because you have like it's a little bit bigger. I don't know. Maybe I'm being colored a little bit by that.
Fair enough.
I really did like Nomergan. I really did like that.
Okay. Pigs, let's throw it over to you, mate. Basically the same question, you know, tell me what you think of Tim's work in Sunken Temple, and I might start you off with that last question that I just put to Arcos. If we're doing the draft of your favorite raids, let's put them in order, 1, 2, and 3. Where are you at with these 3 that we've had so far?
Just want to preface my perspective, super casual. Number 1 by far is Sunken Temple. I think it's amazing, incredible. Number 2, BFD. Number 3, Nomergan.
Yeah.
I don't like the metallic nature.
No, I'm with you.
if you will, of Nomergan.
I'm with you. I agree.
But I think the raids are doing great. I'm a SoD defender. I think SoD's doing awesome, and I think the raiding is a great element of it. And I think Sunken Temple's the best yet, and I think there's even better to come, honestly.
Very good. Well, let's go in on what you liked about the Sunken Temple encounters. Arcos made the point that maybe it was a good thing that we really leaned into a few more mechanics, keep people on their toes, a bit more Wrath Kata style encounters. Is there anything you particularly liked? Anything particularly that maybe does aggravate you a little bit about the Sunken Temple fights?
Oh, is that for me?
Yeah.
Aggravating. I don't know if there's anything aggravating. I'm a healer, and I love that classic players are bad. So the mechanics really throw a wrench in our guild a lot. So it makes healing really fun. So I do like that aspect that classic players suck and they are standing in the bad all the time, and it makes classic healing actually engaging, which I'm very thankful for.
You've tickled Arcos's funny bone because he loves any opportunity to call other people terrible at the game.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. Being a healer and saying, yeah, I like that people are bad, which gives me things to do.
No, to be fair, he's right. Like, that's part of the reason people are sort of seeing me just absolutely fawn over and, tackle anyone that says anything ill about RDF these days, because I'm obsessed with RDF because it's so fun, because like I am playing a healer. And it even just a simple 5-man leveling dungeon, you never know what you're going to get. It's like the Forrest Gump box of chocolates. And sometimes you do get groups that are struggling. And it's whether it's the tank or the DPS or whatever it might be, it makes it more fun and engaging for me to be like, oh, okay, I'll say all these horrible things about you privately, but also I get to have a bit of fun gameplay and use my whole healing toolkit and really get pushed. And, I find it a bit fun, even though, like I said, the guys who I play with would laugh because they're like, Josh, we hear what you say about these poor players, you horrible man. But, fuck, it's not like I'm the best player in the world either. But I agree, Pigs. It's really good. And we talked about this a little bit earlier before I hit the record button, that like, in terms of Kata, not SoD, I'm really enjoying that it's kind of like peak for healers, because there's just, there's so much you can do, and like it really keeps you on your toes and engaged and everything. And I haven't healed in SoD, so I don't know, but I'm glad to hear that SoD is producing a little bit of that effect as well.
100%. And similar, which I am realizing by trying out Kata, I realized that SoD is just Kata in Classic. But Resto Druid is really fun in SoD right now, #1 healer, and it's really fun in Kata.
That's the way. All right, Arcos. Time to flex your toxic fucking muscles, but like we always say, try to be somewhat rational when you give your commentary on this one. Moving beyond the encounters in Sunken Temple, let's talk about some of the things that may not have worked for you, and those points might well be obviously the difficulty, and maybe eventually we'll go difficulty first, and then we'll talk about the gear. We've talked about this a little bit on the show in previous weeks, and I've even sort of asked the devs about this, about trying to get some of their inner thoughts about what is a right level of difficulty for this particular player base. And everyone pretty much seems to accept that, you need to keep things relatively simple for the classic player base, or they lose interest. The question is, how simple is simple? How do we cement this definition? Arcos, I'm going to preface this before you start speaking. Coming off of the drink walking argument that you and I just had, I do feel people should know, if they don't already know, like Arcos is a very sweaty player. He's a high octane raider, top 1% to 2%, all that bullshit. Speedrunning, loves it, fucking, loves to flog the game for all it's worth. So, just keep that in mind when Arcos is now going to talk about what difficulty he expects from the game, or what he expects everyone to keep up with and sort of get on his fucking level. Mates, how difficult should Sunken Temple have been? We went through several iterations. We had the first version, then we got a nerf a couple of days later. We got the second version, then it was nerfed hard to the ground a few days after that. We got the third version. Which should it have been?
I think it should have been the second iteration, at least for a while. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like, I've less of an issue with them making it easier, more of an issue with how they made it easier, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like in the manner of which they threw out the nerfs, right? I agree that I think most people and the devs are in agreement that things shouldn't be, ICC 25 heroic difficulty. I don't think the classic player base is looking for that as the only raid experience available, because you can't toggle an easier option, right? But they also the developers admitted that the raid was overtuned accidentally on launch. The apparently all mobs in the game have a class behind the lid or under the hood.
They're all categorized as a certain class.
And their calculation for health values and damage values were based on a different class for the mobs, which probably some modifier under there that gave them more health and damage than they actually intended them to have. So I think it's completely reasonable to say, okay, we made a mistake here. It's a pretty honest mistake, I guess. We're gonna fix that and make it the difficulty we intended it to be. But then, like 24 hours later, to nerf it to the ground from the difficulty levels that you intended it to have originally, that's where I kind of have the issue, right?
Now, I agree with you, Arcos. This might shock some people, but I was very much so on the show, 6-7 weeks ago, whenever it was, expressing my sort of hesitation, and I guess you'd call it displeasure, over the second nerf. I'm 100% standing by you, and I remember back then you and I were very much so on the same page, saying the player base needs to suck it up, stop bitching about any form of 5 out of 10 challenge. This, after the first nerf was warranted, the second, that second version of Sunken Temple was the sweet spot. That was the spot. I did it. It felt really good. It was going to be tougher for pugs. I get that. And I guess this is the whole thing, is obviously the game is balanced around pugs, but I thought it was tougher for pugs, but not a ridiculous ask by any stretch of the imagination, particularly given that these call screams for nerfs were happening within the first week. And it's like, guys, none of you have gear. Literally, we're all just doing this in our fucking Gnomragon gear. And granted, look, the gearing conversation is another one that's coming up next, because a lot of you will be screaming in rebuttal to what I'm saying. But Josh, the Sunken Temple fucking upgrades were barely upgrades, blah, blah, blah. Well, we didn't really know that at the time. The principle remains the same, that had the Sunken Temple upgrades been, the kind of upgrades that they got changed to and be actually decent things that you covet, we needed to get the gear. Then you can start bitching that the raid is hard when you don't have it, when you've got the gear and you still can't do it. That's how progression raiding generally works, is you down the bosses you can down, you build up some gear, you get some strats down, and you move forward as a pack. It was really tough for me to swallow the amount of bitching that went on about Sunken Temple within those first few days, with the second version of the dungeon. From pugs who just had no intention, in my mind, of fucking, learning the fights, getting any gear. They just believe that it's a horrible WoW player mentality that upon release of new content, everyone who plays the game should be able to down it, no dramas. That's not how MMO should fucking work with upper echelon raid content. Not everyone gets a participation medal, in my opinion. And I know that SoD is a more casual version of the game, and this is being tagged as the classic franchise is the easy version of the game. That's fine. Make it easy, but don't make it silly easy, in my opinion. But, you still have something challenging for the raiders. But anyway, that's just me. Pigs, having heard all of that, I'd love to hear how you feel about this. Which version of Sunken Temple did you feel was the right version? And how do you feel about what I just said about get the gear first, then bitch? Or, this conversation about WoW players' entitlements to all the raid goodies straight away?
I am pretty conflicted. I do think that Classic raid should be super easy, because I don't think Classic is really, even though we all raid in Classic, I don't think it's about the challenge and the progression. But I think your assessment of the second version was the best, because we needed a little something.
Yeah.
The fact that my gear cleared it first week and we're an average middle of the road guild, I kind of wanted to have a couple of challenge
But if I can jump in, Pigs, sorry, keep going. I just want to jump in and say, just so people don't get me wrong, I 100% agree with what you're saying, Pigs. I am on the page of the devs and yourself. Classic should be the easy version of the game. It's this weird argument about how each individual defines easy. Now, I agree with you. The second version of Sunken Temple, I cleared it with my, not amazing guild. We were a strong guild, but not like fucking, world beaters by any stretch of the imagination. We downed it straight away. We didn't kill Aranicus, and we were okay with that. We got through the whole dungeon, didn't kill Aranicus in the second version of Sunken Temple. And we're like, that's cool. We'll get some gear and come back in the next week or two and get that one. Whatever. I defined that second version of Sunken Temple as still simple. Once you get the gear, this will be simple. But a lot of players disagreed with that take. Sorry, I interrupted you. Keep going, Pigs.
That's okay. I was already done, but I totally agree with that. I think everyone likes to jump the gun and complain, and the gear should carry you through the bosses, and you shouldn't be able to do it early, but it shouldn't be challenging to where once you get the gear, it's too challenging, but the gear should push you over the edge. I totally agree, and people are too impatient, and it might take 2 weeks to get your tier set, and then you can clear it.
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to say on the point of it shouldn't be so difficult, etc. I think, as you said, George, like everyone has a different scale of what they deem difficult. But for me, I think there isn't replayability if it's too easy. Like if you don't have any sense of progression, if you don't have any sense of achievement when you do something for the first time or you get over a hurdle for the first time, I kind of feel like you don't get that burning sense to go back and do it again. If it's just a complete pushover the first time you do it, I don't think you're so excited to do it again.
And I'm glad Go brought up this point. I was literally just checked. I was going to go here in the next point anyway, but I'm glad Classic Go has brought up a sort of thing to frame it around. Go said that, look, Josh, if we knew ahead of time that Phase 3 was going to last way longer than Phase 1 and Phase 2, then having Sunken Temple be a bit harder would have been fine. But since we didn't know, we thought we had a 10-week phase followed by an 8-week phase or whatever, a harder raid, and thinking about your loot drops and the harder raid, it's not a very appealing situation when you think that you might get through this phase without fucking getting anything. And I get that, Go. I do get that. I'm still, call me an ogre, I still am of the belief that if, even in a seasonal aspect where this was going to be a 10-week phase, if your guild can't down the last boss until week 4 of that 10-week phase, I'm okay with that. That's me. Call me a weirdo. This is part of the argument about Classic players believe that they deserve every piece of best in slot gear in every fucking slot by the end of a phase. And, I get that a 10-week phase is very, very short. And people, what's the point of doing the raid if I'm not going to get all this gear? Well, the bosses were dropping a lot of gear. And once you started downing Aranicus, you get all this shit that you can start handing out to all your people. I just, people go, oh, what do you mean I have to miss 4 lockouts of Aranicus loot? That's fucking ridiculous. I just personally disagree because I am of the school where, you don't get everything from a raid. It's RNG. First of all, down the fucking boss, get good. Second of all, pray to the RNG gods. And if you don't get the loot, tough shit. Move on for the next phase. That's me. Call me an ogre.
You're so toxic, man.
I know, man. I know. I'm so toxic. How do you feel when you hear me say that, though, guys?
I agree. I don't care if you can't clear the raid. If the raid is just outside of your skill level, don't care. Like,
So, let me just jump
if
in.
you
Sorry.
can progress a little bit, then I think
Yeah.
that's fine.
Exius, sorry, mate. We're talking about the second version. We're all on the same page that the first version of Sunken Temple was over the top and overtuned. We're talking about Sunken Temple 2.0 that we got on day 3 or 4 or whatever of the phase. So that's the version that we feel was a good sweet spot of difficulty, but then that got nerfed and we got what we have now. Pigs.
I would still throw out, for the first iteration, like 0 nerves, I would still point out that none of the raiders going for World First had runes from Phase 3 or like dungeon gear significantly.
Yeah.
So you are essentially talking about level 40 characters in level 40 gear, or like level 50 characters in level 40 gear with level 40 runes going in there.
But
I had the boss under 5%.
I see what you're saying.
If they had all the runes, if they had pre-bis, I think they would definitely have cleared it. And with raid gear, it would have been much, much easier. So I think we still need to have that caveat there that it's
However,
kind of like you're handicapping yourself, right?
That first version would have annihilated pugs for a very long time, if not the whole phase. So I see what you're saying, that the best guilds, you know, if they'd been a little bit more prepared or just waited a day or two before tackling it, probably could have downed it the first attempt. But that's besides the point, because they would have been the only fucking people downing it for 10 weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I agree that it would have been much harder for a lot of players, but I still think it warrants that we acknowledge.
Yeah. Pigs, how do you feel when you hear me, you know, sort of, whether we call it tongue-in-cheek toxic or just flat out plain toxic, say that, you know, if your guild doesn't get every piece from a phase, tough shit, move on. That's how MMOs work. Do you agree or disagree?
No, I 100% agree. No one's entitled to any of this. And that's why the gear in Classic is special, because not everyone gets it, but everyone in Classic wants to get it now. And you shouldn't. You should not be able to get it. I think getting full BIS is ridiculous. It should be an unachievable goal that we're all working towards, but no one should ever get it. And only the best should. And no one should get it for free.
I can tell you that I had the worst time I've had, and this might be a lot of players' wet dreams, but the worst time I had in an MMO of recent memory was playing that warrior in phase 1 of SoD and just being handed full fucking BIS within 2 weeks, because everyone remembers how much it was raining warrior gear. It was out of control. You know,
it still
is. You know, as a prop warrior, it was fucking stupid. And we were laughing, and then we stopped laughing because the joke stopped being funny when, you know, you're getting the 5th version of this piece drop after, you know, you're on the 4th week of the phase. Like, I just didn't want to play my character. I didn't want to raid on this character anymore. I'm like, and I know we make fun of these people. They're like, oh, you got your BIS. Now you don't want to help other people get their BIS. No, I love helping other people get their BIS just because I got taken care of first. You know, whatever. It's just luck of the draw. But the issue was I got taken care of so quickly. I'm not joking, 2 weeks into fucking raiding in SoD Phase 1, I had not one piece in BFD that I wanted or needed anymore. And I'm like staring down the barrel of another 7 or 8 weeks of raiding with not needing to hit that need button once. It was the greatest turnoff I've ever had in my life. And you need, for me, I want not just like one thing that I'm chasing, but I want a number of things to still want as the carrot at the end of the stick to go to these fucking raids.
I 100% agree, and I think there's just too much gear. And I know there's a lot of complaints on Reddit. It's like, we have to have the bosses drop more, and then they did it for Sunken Temple, and there's just too much shit to where you don't want to go back because, yeah, I'm not full BIS, but all my guys have good enough stuff. And it's because they're just raining gear on us. And I know in the short term that's great, but in the long term you get bored.
Now, Arcos, I'll throw it to you. I'm a huge loot whore. A lot of my friends know this about me. I'm probably more of a toxic player than people fucking realize, but I'm a nice guy, guys. Hey, get off my back. But no, I'm a huge loot whore. Loot and PvP are the reasons that I play WoW. I absolutely want loot. I won't fuck people over to get it, but I really want it. I love upgrading my gear and progressing my character. It's why I play the game. Now, what happens is in wanting to do that, I feel that one of the great tools that the MMO has, one of the greatest moments you can experience as an MMO player, again, for me, as a loot whore, is that moment when a boss goes down and you see that first person crouch down to loot the body, and you have that quarter of a second where you've just slapped the button on the slot machine and you're fucking crossing your fingers and you're going, come on, jackpot, baby, because you're hoping that that one thing that's a 12% drop chance pops up on your screen. And then you hope when you rolled need that you win those rolls. Those are two of the most exhilarating moments that an MMO or that WoW can give you, in my opinion. Now, a lot of other people will disagree and say, no, Josh, the most exhilarating moment is when you finally kill a boss after weeks of progression with your mates, blah, 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 blah. This is just what I enjoy. So having that removed from the game where now you've got all your gear so early, or, you're just in full bis in general or whatever, and now you don't give a fuck what the boss drops, just robs games of so much, again, in my opinion. So when people, casuals say, casual guilds or whatever, go, make the content easy, give me all my shit immediately, I just, again, from that angle, I just vehemently disagree. How do you feel when I say that, Arcos? On the slot machine angle. Do you like rolling the dice? Do you like seeing what's going to drop?
I've never cared.
Oh my god.
I have add-ons that need on loot so fast that I don't even see what drops, and then I just keep going.
God.
And we dole it out later, like when the raid's over. But of course, it's nice to get upgrades, and especially items that you're chasing, etc. And I understand the picture that you're painting, and it's valid for probably a lot of players. And I think we definitely have an issue with the amount of loot dropping, but it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Because classic, in comparison to later expansions, is you're playing the entire expansion. Like, loot from raids is relevant for the entire expansion, not just the current tier. Whereas in most later expansions, like, it's not completely everything, but most loot is mostly just relevant during that tier phase. And that's because it's scarce, right? The bosses don't drop a lot of items per raid. You have 40 people. There's always a few people competing for most items that drop. So, of course, then the dopamine hit's going to be insane, right? Now we just have half the amount of people, but the bosses are dropping more loot. So you're going to run out of things to spark that dopamine hit way faster, right?
How about you, Pigs? Are you a loot whore?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Dopamine. I'm a risk taker, and I love to watch the dice roll. And I think that's why there should be even less loot. And I think there should be the essence of classic preserved. And I know the argument for SoD is that we're going away from classic, but it should be molten core, 2 items per boss, and you're fighting against 20 people. Because the time you roll high on that rejuve gem that only drops 10% of the time, like, the time I got that item, my brain exploded. Like, I remember that. I don't remember the loot I'm getting in Sunken Temple,
I agree. I was very excited when I got the rejuve gem on my warrior. XD.
Oh man, there's a lot of healers that are really mad right now.
Boys, let's talk about the gear. Blizzard caught a bit of flack for the itemization in Sunken Temple, that the upgrades were not quite upgrades. They were pretty ordinary. And then they swooped in a couple of weeks ago and said, you know what, you guys are right. We'll buff the stats on a bunch of these things. And that's what they did, making you far more, have far more incentive to actually go to Sunken Temple. First in, best dressed. Well, I'll start with Pigs. Pigs, how did you feel about? I mean, I think it's fair to call this one a pretty big dropping of the ball. I certainly, like we just said, I'm a massive loot whore. I have no intention of going to your raid if the loot is a side grade. I just don't give a fuck. Make it a juicy upgrade, not ridiculous, but make it a juicy upgrade to the point that I want to go to this thing for an hour and a half every week. If you're taking an hour and a half of my time, and hey, baby, my time is money. My time is valuable. I've got other games I could be playing. If I'm going to a Sunken Temple for an hour and a half or whatever, I want the chance to win something good, not the chance to get something that I have no fucking interest in. And why am I even here? How did you feel about the gearing?
I think it's a really. I don't think it was a Sunken Temple mistake. It's a long-term problem, and it happened in BFD. Because what we should have gotten is 2 spell power on an item and a couple more intellect, and they gave us almost Molten Core level shit in BFD in terms of spell power and attack power. Like, not quite, but pretty close. And like that started to spiral out of control, and they started to realize that, I think, and that's why they're like, all right, let's give them 2 more spell power next phase. And yeah, this problem was created in November, and they've been trying to think about how to curb it because they're seeing the future and like, well, Molten Core is just going to fall over because we're going to have to give people 500 spell power to keep their dopamine running. And I think they tried to curtail it, but they also shot themselves in the foot because you also got to keep the dopamine running. But yeah, the numbers are not being managed well, and it's kind of out of control.
All right, Arcos, will throw it over to you. Pigs, I'll just add this, that Mike, our friend, Balls of Steel's in chat saying Pigs is a mad lad that I couldn't disagree with more, but I respect his right to his opinion. Well, there you go. I still call that he's a fan of yours, Pigs. Arcos, mates, let's talk about this gearing. Like I said, I've turned it a bit unfortunate that this was not latched onto until a little bit later in the phase. How did you feel about it as a sweaty hardcore raider?
Yeah, didn't really care about the buffed items. Like it just changes a tiny bit.
Why are you going to raid? If you care so little about gear, why are you raiding?
I have other things that I care about regarding rating.
Like what?
Marcos, I've been listening to you for a while. I don't think you like World of Warcraft. I don't think you have fun playing this game.
Oh my god, I love playing the game, but I like competing on things that are.
What brings you joy in this world of Warcraft?
I'm a boomer and I like to go fast, right? Yeah, gear helps you to go fast, but I don't care if the item drops or not. I just want to go fast, right? Like if I don't get my item, like whatever, I just want to go fast, right? So I have different raid goals than just getting BIS. I couldn't care less if I'm BIS or not. I want to compete on speed and I want to get decent parses on the way. Gear helps there, of course. Like the more gear you have in the entire raid, the more raid damage you have, the better your parses are, the better your speed and kills are, etc. It all matters. But if an item drops or doesn't drop, it's not make or break anything for me. Like I could not care less if I don't see a main hand healing mace in the entire phase. Like yeah, it sucks. I'd love to get it, but if I don't, it's fine, right? I'm focusing on different goals.
So are you guys speed running through SoD? Like, is there a big speed running scene that I'm not aware of with all you guys clocking your times every week and competing against each other?
Yeah. It's very accessible now.
And how's your guild going?
It's so easy, right? Last time we had a good run, we were world 18th.
World 18th. That's pretty good. Okay. I think you could yell at the guys a bit more to get in the top 10 though.
Yeah, I think we have the strategies down to be, at least within the top 15, maybe inside top 10.
Is that right, what X is saying in chat, that ST is now down to about 17, 18 minutes by the best in the world?
I think it's down to 15
Jesus.
minutes.
Okay.
No way. I was about to brag about my guild's 42 minutes, and
yeah,
I'm not
right?
even close.
Wow.
There's one guild with sub 16. There's a couple of guilds with sub 18. No.
Right.
Like
okay.
the raid is just incredibly easy for these types of players. Like there's risk that you choose to take by doing, like, for example, when you finish Dream Southern Weaver and you're on your way to Jamalan and Ogum, like there's these troll trash packs, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. you don't do them one by one. You do all of them in one go. You pull every single trash mob in between one boss and the other, and it's like, I want to say, like 50 to 60 mobs. Kill them all at the same time. It's that, like, the raid tuning now is that easy that you can pull 60 mobs at the same time and kill them all.
There you go.
Right?
All right. Well, look, if that's everything we've got to say about Sunken Temple, let's just give it a 5-star rating. Pigs, where are you going out of 5? What are you giving Sunken Temple overall?
I think it's a 6, man. I think it's a perfect raid. I love that they breathe new life into.
That's taking everything into account.
Perfect.
Everything, the gear, the difficulty, the encounters, everything.
I'm putting it 5 or 6. Yep, out of 5.
All right, Arcos, how about you?
Yeah, I would be happy to say the design 5/5. Yeah, I like the design.
All right. I won't give a review on any of this stuff because, you know, I'd started playing Kata 6 weeks ago and stopped playing SoD, so it's not really fair for me to comment too intensely on SoD Phase 3. So I'm more just here to drive the guys and get their thoughts, even though I am weighing in a little bit on more, you know, global arguments like difficulty and whatnot. Guys, let's move on. Look, I want to touch on incursions, but I don't want to go too deep because I feel like we kind of had the deep incursion conversation on the podcast the day after the phase dropped, but a lot has happened since then, so let's kind of discuss it. Look, incursions were obviously changed a little bit so that you couldn't just sort of spam as much as you could on day 1 or 2 or whatever. I was on the podcast on, you know, 24 hours into release saying like, hey man, I just don't know if it's the greatest idea that we funnel every fucking player into this one small area to level. It feels a bit weird, and people will be like, hey man, that's how MMOs work anyway. Whenever you get an expansion, we're all just in the same new zone. I was like, I know this is a weak as piss retort, but it just feels different, man. You know, just to sit in that same zone the whole time and not move on to the next level bracket or whatever. Blizzard seemed to agree with this somewhat, and soon after that rant, the limits came in, and we restored a little bit of life to the leveling world. And, you know, people, much to their chagrin, who bitched about leveling and having to get out in the open world were, you know, forced to maybe go out and accept their fate, that they might have to go to these zones and do the quests that they've done before and whatnot. But, guys, look, on incursions in general, looking back over everything that's happened over the last, 7-8 weeks, how do you feel about them now? Were they a good idea? Did they wind up in a good spot? Should they be in any MMO? What do you think about them? Pigs, I'll start with you.
So last time I was on the show was the day after the incursions, and I praised them to all hell. And I may be controversial. I still think they're great, and it is a symptom of a larger problem, though. Is should Blizzard protect us from ourselves or not? Do we ruin the open world? If you go and quest through there once on your way up to 50, incursions are beautiful. They reinvent the whole zone, and you have a little lore action. You like the Emerald Nightmare Dream bullshit. You played Warcraft 3. They're serving a lot of levels with the incursions, and they're reinventing the classic world. But if you're a meta slave and you have to get to 50 right now, and you're going to run around in circles, I really think that's a you problem, not a developer problem. But that's where I stand with incursions. I think they were good, but it's the player's fault for fucking them up.
Arcos, let's throw over you because, building off of what Pig said, I just, it's funny. I remember how passionate that discussion was 24 hours in that we had on the show. How do you feel about it, Arcos?
I think it's a decent idea, just not put forward perhaps in the best kind of way. How do I put this? I think they could probably have done it better if they made it timed, so it didn't just spawn it wasn't just always spawned, maybe then you would like it would. Do you remember the event around Naxxrama's launch in Classic, like where you would look at the map, and in 2 or 4 locations in the world there would be a skull. You go there, you kill some ghouls and stuff like that. I think that would maybe have been fun for the incursion, that it pops up every hour, every 2, every 3 hours, whatever it lasts, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever. And you go there, you get nice experience, you get decent gold, but you can't just farm it repeatedly 24/7.
I'll just say a couple of things and see what you guys think of this. Just commenting on some points that have come in from Twitch chat. Again, thank you so much, guys, for adding to the conversation over there on Twitch. X, just to comment on what you've said, X said that incursions on PvP servers were so cancer. They were so bad, they just made me transfer to a PvE server when they gave me the opportunity. I understand what you're saying, and you're not wrong, because every player has a subjective viewpoint on this one, X. And I agree that if you're playing, there's a lot of players that play on PvP servers who truly are not PvP players. They're not that PvP inclined. They think they like it when they really don't. And they're just not built that way.
Yeah, Josh, can I interrupt you?
Yeah, man.
You're being too nice to your viewers. He's wrong.
Well,
he's wrong.
Yeah,
There's too many people who keep, I don't know how it keeps happening. They keep coming to PvP servers. And they're like, I got killed on a PvP server. Like, yeah. But it wasn't a fair interaction. Competitive. It's like, no. PvP server is about ganking and disrespecting you with no rules to abide by. It's not about fun, fair gameplay.
That is true, and it's something that I've come to terms with over, like, I'm a very different player now from the player I was 2 years ago when I, infamously was on stream talking about my rules of engagement and all that stuff. And I still have a couple of those rules, but they're my rules that I don't expect other people to employ. Like, I won't kill lobies and whatnot. There's a bunch of, sort of moral things that I won't do. But what I'm getting at is, if you were that player who's really not all in on PvP, but you're playing on a PvP server, yes, incursions were a horrible, horrible place for you. They had a lot of ganking, a lot of people just sitting at the gate in groups, picking people off. I saw it, I lived it. But I am cut from a different cloth. And I'm not saying that one way of gameplay is better or one mentality is better than the other or whatnot. We're just different people. I saw the ganking. I was ganked many times at the gate, and I reveled in it. I took that as someone throwing down the gauntlet, and we were on stream back then. This is 6-7 weeks ago. Fucking me, Tito, fucking Hunk, Voodoo, fucking Swan, Ubiquitous, the boys. We rallied the group and said, fuck these cunts. And we just started with like 5 of us. Honestly, we did like 5 on 20. I am not joking. And we took the area. And it was some of the most fun I've ever had in an MMO. The problem is that PvP makes a lot of people wilt, because they don't, basically at the end of the day, they're saying, you know what, I'm really not prepared to give up my time. Like, I want to play on a PvP server when I win, but if I lose, that costs me time, and I have things I want to do in this game, and I'm not prepared to lose that time. I am a psychopath in that I am fucking more than prepared to lose my time. I did a very, very, very toxic thing just yesterday that I told my friend Voodoo about. Guys, call me a petty piece of shit. I don't care. This is why I'm made for PvP servers. A guy stole a mob tag from me that I thought was a really, really rude instance. I won't go into the details, but it was just really rude and really uncool. I then was on the opposite faction. I then proceeded to walk around and sap this guy for the next 20 minutes. He could not get away from me. And he would have been throwing his monitor out the window. And it was a piece of shit move to do. Just sapping people rather. He was 85, I was 81 in Kata. I couldn't kill him, so I just started sapping him all the time. It really fucked with his play session. And like, I'm petty like that. I'm an asshole like that. And you've all encountered these fuckwits that do that to you. I'm sorry. I'm that guy sometimes. But I love the beauty of PvP servers being able to afford me the ability to do that because I have the fucking time. There are assholes out there with nothing better to do. They don't want to grind gold. They don't want to go to raid. They're not trying to progress their character in any way, shape, or form. They just want to jump in the sand pit and fuck with you because they've got nothing better to do with their day. That's fucking me. And it's not so much that I have nothing better to do with my day, but I enjoy that. I take a really perverse sense of joy out of fucking with people who wronged me. I don't do this to anyone. You've got to wrong me. But then I'll be like, mate, I have an hour. Let's fucking do this. And they're like, this guy jumped on his Horde character and was like, hey, man, like kind of, you sure do hold a grudge. What's the go? And I said, baby, I absolutely hold a grudge. Welcome to hell. You know, I'm sorry. I like PvP servers, but I get that what I've just said offends a lot of people. And if you are offended by what it has said, please, for God's sakes, never roll on a PvP server like Pig said. Hey, Iconoclastic, how you going, mate? Thanks so much for joining in. Maybe he's just listening in. Jump in whenever you want, Icono, if you're here for a chat. Pigs, did everything I said just resonate with you?
10,000%. I'm a shithead. I'm literally right now as we're talking, still battling that mage from earlier. I'm chasing around on Goro, and my game is to camp the shit out of him. I just want to ruin his day, and I think he has the same goal because he keeps polymorphing me and running away and stealing my arcane crystals. And this is classic WoW, dude. It's social created content, and I fucking love it.
And that's the part where, sorry, not to go down too far of a tangent here, Arcos. We'll get back on point soon, but like. I've Pigs. I love that you've said this. I'll say this too. Forded, hey man, sorry, I'll get to you in a second. Thanks so much for joining in, Pigs. I romanticize PvP for the reason that you just raised, and I again, I will never push people to PvP that don't like it. I get that again. You have to have a kind of perverse mentality for this kind of thing, but it's in an MMO where people like. We praise the sandbox and we watch streamers and we always like high five them and cheer when they make their own content in the game, you know. Raids are fun and all, but raids are scripted content, you know what I mean? We know what's going to happen. We go nuts and love it when weird shit happens and people make their own, you know, whether it's a fucking, hey man, let's all dress up as Scarlet Warriors and go and do something weird outside the Scarlet Monastery, or hey, we're going to go raid Orgrimmar, or whatever it might be. Like, generally speaking, PvP content or world PvP content it's the Play-Doh of World of Warcraft. You are melding your own fun, wacky thing. And the part I love about it is these are snowflake experiences. And I don't mean snowflake in terms of people being pussies or whatever. I mean, not one encounter is like another. They're all unique in their own special way. You'll never replicate that moment ever again. And that's where I get off on world PvP, where I'm like, you will never get this again. This kind of interaction with this kind of person. Are you going to kill them once? Are you going to camp them? What are you fighting over? It's all unique and fun. And it's player-made content. And I'd always have struggled that players of an MMO don't embrace that more. And I know why they don't, because their egos can't handle losing, which is just the most ridiculous fucking thing in the world, because some of my most fun times I've had in WoW have been losing to the same person over and over, but just dicking around with them. Anyway, I'm ranting. Pigs, any of that go with you?
Incredible. You summed it up, and this is what WoW is. And I'm sick of, I really think people that are hating on SoD don't like Classic, and that's the thing. Well, SoD isn't Classic, so it should be different. If you think, there's a lot of people who are saying there's no content in SoD right now, and if you think that, go watch Showbeck, go watch Payo, and it's all world PvP created. They have a different crazy stream every day, and it's just them farming arcane crystals and talking shit with some guy in whatever zone they're farming in, and it's a different interaction every fucking minute, and it's totally generated just because it's classic WoW World PvP, and there's so much content in SoD right now, and everyone's just looking the other way.
And that's the thing that always bothered me, is that like I am shocked, flabbergasted, blown away that there aren't more Showbecks and Payos out there that make World PvP their stream. Because like I say, the streaming, oh god, this is a conversation for another day. The streaming environment of World of Warcraft blows my fucking mind, where 95% of the streamers, every stream you see is just, hey guys, we're doing Sunken Temple today on our 4th character. Hey guys, we're doing fucking Next Ramas today. Like, it's all, like, people generally just stream raids. And I'm like, what is fucking interesting about that? I go and do that on my character every week. I know what fucking happens in there. I don't care what loot you get. And I get that, you know, streaming is just hanging out with someone. It's about the hang, blah, 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 and that's all fine. But, like, the actual content they're doing is fucking boring as batshit. The best streams, and the thing that no one does on stream, because, again, everyone's got a tiny dick and is afraid of publicly losing because they're fuckwits. The best streams are World PvP streams, where you just go out and be like, hey, guys, I'm going to go out in the world and I'm going to see who I come across, and we're going to make an enemy today, and it's going to be a lot of fun because it's not scripted. You don't know what's going to happen, and the most beautiful, outrageous things happen. I don't know how people just sit down and go, oh, I'm going to watch my favorite streamer stream fucking this raid for the 15th time this week. Like, that's just me.
Amen.
I agree a lot on the streamer side, but I think a lot of the players aren't here anymore for PvP just because of how they fucked PvP over in the beginning. Like,
Yeah.
no one really enjoys glass cannon meta PvP. Like, it's not as fun as it is in classic, or like phase 1 through 5, and then in phase 6 you get glass cannon. But that's kind of my only issue with the world PvP and so. Like, I spec PvP after every raid. Like, I'm only PvE spec for raid, and then I'm PvP spec the entire rest of the week.
Because you're
always,
a fucking
on every
Chad.
character.
That's why.
Of course, but the issue now is just the way that they've tuned things for PvE. Like, the amount of DPS we're doing in PvE just doesn't work for PvP, and it's been an issue since phase 1, right? And everyone kind of knows that. And I think that has turned so many people off PvP in general, not just world PvP, but also just like battlegrounds, because it isn't as enjoyable when the fights last 3 globals and it's over. It's not as fun as, you know, back in classic vanilla in 2019 and 2020, when like I've spent 6 days of the week running up and down Fellwood with rank 14 gear. I would fight everyone I saw. The fights would always last 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds, right? It was fun. It was engaging. You had to think, like, I need to counter this. I know that's coming, etc., etc. Now it's just like, if you're a melee player, while you're running towards your caster target, he's going to queue up 2 spells, you're dead. Right? And that's not engaging.
I hear what you're saying, but like,
it's
sorry, you go,
all
hey,
about who
Forded,
gets
how
off
are you, man?
It's all about who gets off the first global in PvP.
In which version?
That's in SoD.
I disagree. I still disagree. I think way too much weight is put into the argument of who gets off the first global wins. I think there's so many recovery methods, but I know what you're saying. But like, sorry, let me just say, Arcos, you hit a nerve with me, because I'm like, I agree. I'm nodding furiously, and I agree 100% with like the Fellwood mention, because like, the start of phase 3, you guys might understand, I spent the first week of phase 3 either in incursions PvPing with the boys or on the road in Fellwood just PvPing. And I just had this moment where I was like, I was spending hours a day just patrolling that road going, you know what? For all RP purposes or whatever, this is fucking Josh's road. I'm renaming this Josh's road, and anyone who fucking crosses me has to pay the toll. And like, I did some of it on stream, and you know, I lost 20 to 30% of those fights, but like, I don't give a fuck. You shake yourself off and you go again. Like, it was so fun, and there's nothing in it for my character, but I've never had more fun in the game than just doing shit like that. But anyway, Forded, thank you so much.
I can't wait for Black Rock Mountain PvP next phase. If people come back, the amount of activity that's going to be in that one congested zone is going to be insane, and it's going to be fun.
Well, maybe let's go down.
I'm really hoping that it does. But to your point with Felwood, like I did the same. Like day 3 of phase 3, I was in Felwood just running up and down with some guildies with me. We would fight anyone and everyone.
There you go.
Like
You've got to do it with guildies, do you?
Groups of 7, 8 people trying to do runes together, etc. We would just go at them, right? But as the days passed, just people stopped showing up. Like people aren't out in the world. They're not willing to engage with the world PvP because they either are, retail anti-kata wrath gamers that want a lobby-style game, or they're just so disenchanted with the PvP in its current state that they just don't want to be a part of it at all. And that's like my annoyance with it, because I think that's 90% of the game for me is open world PvP. But if it's tuned so bad that no one enjoys it, no one wants to take the risk of encountering it, then there's no one there for me to kill, right?
Well, let's. There's a few tangents that have just come up that we need to lean into, because like we haven't mentioned that. We sort of have danced around it, but there were some PvP tuning changes that came in when I was overseas about 3 or 4 weeks ago. They tinkered around with, PvP now basically doing different things to your character, and maybe now it takes a lot longer to kill people because, like you guys said, one of the chief complaints about PvP, or about SoD, has been the PvP tuning, and like, why are we dropping like a sack of shit? Players go down so quickly, and whilst I slightly disagree with what Ford had said about the first global, there is a lot to what he said in that, yes, these fights are so quick that the first global does have a lot of say. I get that. And so Blizzard stepped in and said, all right, well, let's try this new thing. And I was away with the dampening, and I think we got 2 different versions of the dampening.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, Ubiquitous was on me when I was overseas going, Josh, you've got to try this new PvP. It's fucking wild. It takes 10 years to kill people. I didn't get to try it. And
that was fun. That was fun.
Well, yeah, let's talk about it. Like, how do you guys feel? Because this obviously happened in phase 3. It's part of the review. How did you feel about the
10-day period?
Yeah.
All right, so that little 10-day period where they tried to really nerf player damage was really fun. I remember Arathi Basin's blacksmith fights taking 5, sometimes 10 minutes because, you couldn't kill people fast enough, and they couldn't kill you fast enough. And if you had healers actually made a difference at that point. But then they kind of backed that down considerably to like maybe 20% of what it was, and now it's back to a mage can arcane blast you from full health down to 20%. And then just kind of kite you around and do the rest. If you're a melee person, by the time you get to them, Living Bomb has already gone off and you're fucked.
Pigs, how'd you go with the dampening?
I'm conflicted because I do think that Classic is about burstiness. I mean, that's what made Classic PvP great, but I do admit when that happened, it made Blood Moon a lot more fun. At least you could play the game for a little bit.
All right, Arcos?
I'm not doing PGs unless they change the pre-made thing.
Okay, rightio.
What is that? That's a good question, actually, for me. What is the pre-made situation right now? And what do you want, Arcos?
So right now, we got the change in phase 2, I think it was. So we have 2 separate queues that are still the same queue. If you queue with more than 5 people, you are prioritized to face a 10-man pre-made, or at least a group that's 6 or more. If you queue with a max cap of 5, you are still just in the open free-for-all queue, and you should get put into a battleground with people that are not in a 10-man pre-made. But because we have more Horde players engaged in Battlegrounds, at least on EU, and I believe it's the same on NA, there's more Horde who are queuing for PGs like over the spectrum, the meta for them became to just queue 10-man premates, because otherwise the queues were so long. Like they would be sitting in 20-30 minute queues, while Alliance have 1-2 minute queues. So if
that's completely different than NA.
I was
okay,
going to agree as well.
NA is
That's not what's happening.
NA is flipped.
NA is small. What our meta is we like do 3 to 5 man groups. Correct me if I'm wrong. We do like quick non premades, but with the biggest party you can get queued into with.
Well, if you watch NA streamers for Horde get almost instant queues even with 10 mans.
That's the point that I was trying to make. Because if you only provide 10-man premade groups from your faction towards the overall queue, you're always going to be in a 10-man premade. Your queue isn't going to be longer. And that was the change they wanted to make. If you're in a 10-man queue, you're only going to be faced against other 10-man queues. So your queue time, your wait time will be longer. But if your entire faction only provides 10-man teams for the queue, they can't just keep you waiting for Alliance. They will just throw you against like any 10 people who are queued from the opposite faction. And that's kind of where the meta went. One faction has a very short queues no matter what you queue as. The other faction has a very
what? You cut out, mate. Oh, maybe we lost Arcos for a second. That's all right. Guys, go forward.
He's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. The faction participation in BGs is very unbalanced. EU has a lot more Horde participation. North America had a lot more Alliance participation, 2 months ago. Now it's like the capital cities are almost completely empty for both factions.
Fred, hello, mate. How are you?
I'm doing well. Sorry for being late. How are you doing, man?
Good, man. Good. Thanks so much for joining in. We'll have to get to a topic that we can get you to weigh in on. Hey, I'll just say as well, Icono, I'm not sure if you're wanting to get into the conversation or if you're just politely listening in. Either is cool, man. Just let me know if you are trying to get a word in. All right. Fuck, we went down so many tangents. I've kind of lost track of where we started. Fuck, there were so many things I wanted to say.
Most of us came in late, so...
Yeah, there were so many points.
Yeah, so I cut out. We were talking about World PvP, Josh. We can talk about that for at least 3 more hours.
Oh, that's right. It all started from the PvP comment. God, I've got to go back through the Twitch chat history. So yeah, that's a half an hour answer to your point, X, about incursions sucking because of the PvP. All right.
Incursions just suck because you feel like a bot after doing 3 loops.
Right. Well, I mean, the next point, Classic Go raised a really good point. Just we'll wrap up this incursions conversation. And Fred, we've heard from everyone. I might get you and Forder just to weigh in on incursions before we move on. But just to read you this comment, Go says that, look, since incursions were tailored towards 3 to 5 player groups, it was a turn-off for a mainly solo player like me, so I was stuck doing the same quest that I was used to out in the open world rather than incursions. I agree with this. We're like, but then again, I'm the fuckwit here. You guys can call me out on this one. You know that I'm much more, I lean towards more solo content than group content, but that is at odds with what the Classic team is trying to do with obviously a game like Classic, where they want to incentivize more group content. And, Gren's come out on the record going like, we want to fucking make things that push people towards groups. We don't necessarily want you playing the game solo. That's fine. Sucks for me because I like to do things solo. But incursions really were shitty for solo players. They were really shit. And like I did them the first 2 days in groups, so it was all good. We smashed it. We fucking made a lot of money. We got all the experience, all that shit. We're laughing in our 4 or 5 player groups. But, after that, I tried it solo and it was a vastly different experience. It fucking sucked. And I know that's like, well, if it sucks, go out and fucking make some friends and get a group, Josh. But just like, I don't know, you don't always want to fucking do that when you play an MMO. Sometimes you do just want to be a fucking Nigel and sit in the corner by yourself. But anyway, Fred, let me throw it to you first, mate. When I say all of that, what's your general review of incursions? Did you feel that they were too team dependent, or they were fine?
Well, on the team dependent point, I didn't really have an issue with it. I don't know what server the commenter was on or what you were playing on. I played on Lone Wolf Horde US, and I pugged 5-man groups, and it was not a problem.
You could get pugs. I'm not saying you couldn't get people to do it with you. I just didn't. I'm just a weirdo who doesn't always want to get in a pug or find the pug.
Oh yeah, I mean it definitely is a miserable experience if you don't want to pug and don't want to group and just want to do it solo. I mean, but I think my general problem with incursions wasn't really that. It was just I think it was maybe Ford who said it, where you feel like a bot. I mean, yeah, like you were literally just like going around in a circle farming golds, and not even completing the content or like even killing anything, just clicking on some items. It really was not very engaging content.
Yeah.
And I think the other issue with it, which I'm sure was probably discussed earlier, was, and other people have discussed this too, is that, I think the point of classic plus content or a SoD content is that it should be additive rather than take away content. And like I think the actual like results that happen for most players is that the addition of incursions effectively removed level 40 to 50 leveling, which I think really was bad for the game and made people kind of burn out real quick when you do that and you're like, oh, this entire experience is gone. I just lost a whole bunch of the game. And then another issue with it is, I think it, especially because it was, especially early on when it was giving so much gold, a lot of people who had spent a lot of time in earlier phases farming gold, and they felt like, well, shit, like that was a huge waste of time, and I think that really ruined their investment in the game when they felt like it could just be totally turned over on a whim like that from incursion. So I think those were the bigger issues for me than anything about grouping or not grouping.
No, fair enough. Pigs, let me throw this to you, and then Forded will get you to finish up on this topic. Just coming off of what you just said in Twitch chat, Pigs, about having no pity for those that choose to run in incursion circles, I do somewhat agree with you. I would just say that, like, what Fred just said, or what sort of everyone just said, really resonated with me in terms of the feeling like a bot. And Fred said that, the content really wasn't that engaging. Maybe after you complete your first couple of circuits, you see the new content and then you go, oh, I really am just doing the same thing over and over again. And I agree that, like, disengaging was kind of a good descriptor. But, like, it really hammered something home for me, Pigs, in that, we all know it's true, and we often say that, players will do, content that's not necessarily the most thrilling content in the world, as long as it gets them from A to B the quickest. If it's the most efficient leveling method, they will do it regardless of what it is. And it kind of really proved the point to me that, and not to say that the incursions were this level of fucking, boring, but, like, players truly would, and I'm not saying this with any form of hyperbole, if you created a leveling experience where you were like, I'm not joking to say, just stand in this corner for 3 hours and press your F key every 5 seconds, and that will get you to max level 1 hour quicker than everyone else. All the players would do it, and they're not even playing a video game, but they would do it because it's the quickest. And it's like, it just goes to prove how, the path of least resistance is beyond a meme. Like, players will do literally anything you ask of them if it's the quickest. Do you agree, Pigs?
I totally agree, and it is Blizzard's fault for setting up that way, but I am disappointed in you, Josh, because you used to rag on the classic player base, and you're giving them a slide here. They're choosing this wrong decision.
Oh no, I am giving them shit. I gave them shit when incursions came out, and I'm giving them shit now.
If you choose to do incursions, it's really your fault. I do it. I have 4 50s. I've leveled them all up. I do one route of incursions in Dustwood, do one route in Ashen Vale, one in Fearless, and that's it. I choose to go back out in the world. And if you choose to stand in the corner and click your button for 3 hours, it's a you problem in my book. Like, you're choosing to not have fun. And you're an autonomous 30-year-old man, most likely. That's the average demographic in Classic. If you can't figure out how to have fun in Classic, like, go play retail. Get out of here.
No, I agree with you, and thank you for calling me a 30-year-old man. I'll take that. But no, I rallied against incursions as they were delivered on day one, and I was very against this, saying like, hey, no, we shouldn't be doing this ad nauseum. Like, it's a fun new experience, and it should be part of it, but limit it. Like, this needs to be additive, like Fred says, as opposed to the whole leveling experience. I agree with you, Pigs, 100%, that players that just are happy. And I have a good friend of mine who I won't name and shame right now, who, he knows who he is, and some of you might know who he is, who is very pro incursions and said, this is great. Look how quickly it gets me to max level. And I'm sort of like, but at what cost? But anyway.
Just to jump into
I agree with you, though.
yeah.
It should be a week-long cooldown.
Yeah. Fred
Well,
then
at least
forwarded.
daily. Yeah.
I mean, you had John Satz on the show many years ago, one of the creators of Vanilla WoW, and he stated, I think very succinctly, if you give players a chance, they will optimize the fun out of the game.
Yeah.
That's a John Satz quote,
Yep.
not original observation.
And this was
But I
the
think that's
walking, talking example of that.
Yeah, exactly. This is a perfect example of that, in my opinion.
Yeah. Forwarded, do you finish this up on incursions, then we'll get everyone to give it a 5-star review.
2 thoughts. One, absolutely, we min-maxed the fun out of the 40 to 50 range with incursions. And it just, I don't know, it just, it ruined the 40 to 50 leveling, because I like going out and questing. I like finding random people and say, hey, I've got this end quest mob I need to kill. I can't do it solo. Want to team up? Okay, yeah, there. And that's how you make friends. You don't make friends by just going and doing an incursion,
Always
a
salad.
loop constantly. And they should have limited it to, you can do one incursion quest of each type, like one loop, full loop, a day. And then that's it. You don't get experience, you don't get cash, you don't get anything else past that one loop. Just make it daily. So it's part of the leveling bracket. You can use it to augment your leveling, but it doesn't become your sole source.
Agreed. I'll just say this last thing, and then we'll get everyone's 5-star review. I am dunking a little bit on incursions, but I just want to reiterate something I said very quickly just then. Is then I still think that there is a place for incursions in this game, much like the other guys are saying. I wasn't unhappy with incursions on the whole. I just thought there was a better way to roll them out, and the guys have just explained a lot of those things that would have probably helped, like higher cooldowns and whatnot. It was phenomenal for World PvP. I loved them and adored them for that reason. I spent a lot of time killing people in incursions, and I wouldn't take that time back for the world. But the leveling aspect was not quite handled correctly, in my opinion. So I applaud the Classic team for trying to innovate. I wouldn't so much call it a swing and a miss, but it was there was a better way of doing it. And
it was a grounder first.
Yeah. So I won't give it a score out of 5 because, again, I didn't play them enough to really lean in. But Fred, I'll start with you. Out of 5, how many stars for incursions?
I'll give it 2 out of 5. I
2.
think the concept of going into the Emerald Dream, these portals that have been there since Classic, what's beyond them, great. I think the execution pretty much dropped the ball as hard as it could. For the reasons I described earlier, I think probably the best way to do it would have been to make it like a Jinto lore, like a one-time quest zone. So you go in, it's elites, you go with your party of 5, and then, you do all 4 of them, and that's how you get your honored rep or whatever, instead of it being a daily, which I think makes the game feel like a chore, or what we have now, which just basically removes other leveling from the game due to players' tendencies to optimize fun out of the game. All right.
Forwarded, out of 5?
2.5 out of 5.
All right.
They become obsolete next phase if the Nightmare Dragons are introduced, because you're not going to go try and do incursions with a giant ass dragon sitting in front of the portal.
All
so,
right.
You made a one phase content. That's not what Classic is about. Classic is about being able to do things constantly and go back, if that's what you enjoy, go back and be able to redo things.
Okay. Arcos, out of 5?
I think, maybe 4 for just efforts of trying to do something different, break up the meta of dungeons, etc. But the execution, unfortunately, I'll just give it 1.
Okie dokie. Pigs, round us, bring us home.
I give it a 4 out of 5. Only star missing is, I think there should be a cooldown. You should be incentivized to do it once and de-incentivized to do it repeatedly. And I know we're done with incursions, but what is happening next phase with incursions? What are we doing with this? I hope to God it's not part of the leveling, even though I like them. I hope it stops at 50, but I would guess this is the most efficient way to go from 50 to 54 if it stays put. Is it sticking around or not? I haven't heard anything.
I have no idea. Fuck pigs. I wish that you had caught some of those streams we did doing the world PvP at the incursions those first few days. It would have been labeled pornographic for you. You would have fucking loved it.
Oh, daddy.
I enjoyed the streams, dude. They were awesome.
Very good. Boys, look, let's go down a quick little tangent here. I say quick whimsically. I just thought about the leveling bands, and I thought it's warranted to have a really quick conversation about this, given that we've just gone through the final leveling band. You know, one of the selling points of Season of Discovery was something that, you know, a large portion of the player base had asked for, saying like, hey, how good was that classic beta in 2019 where we only had, you know, we could only go to 30 and, you know, spawned the idea of leveling bands and just give us incremental leveling. So the classic team said, fuck it, yeah, let's do it. And it was applauded. And you know, phase 1 was great and all that stuff. But now looking back, I feel like people, now that they've lived the experience of all the leveling bands, and we've got the level 60 content coming out soon, I feel like people's opinions have become a little bit mixed on the leveling bands. I'm still a fan of them. My only critique, if anything, would be maybe too long. Like, and I think that seems to be a relatively common point of feedback, is that like, and it's tough because you've got the new raid content there, but even taking that into account, like maybe something like a 6-week band would have been better. I don't know. But you know, it's funny because in a world where new raids weren't being made for Season of Discovery, I was on the show before SoD came out saying I think like 4 to 6 week bands felt like a happy spot for me. We got around, you know, 10-week bands, or for phase 3 it's going to be a little bit longer, and people sort of have after experiencing that 1, 2, 3 times have sort of gone, oh, you know, it does start to feel a bit long and maybe it is sort of hurting the game more than helping. I'm not sure where I sit on this one. Guys, I want to know how you feel. Who wants to dive in first on just your overall thoughts or grading just Season of Discovery's leveling bands overall up to this point?
I'd love to dive in first.
Go,
So
Fred.
I definitely agree with the 4 to 6 weeks would have been ideal. If I think there's any issue with Season of Discovery generally, I think it is in fact the timing of the bands. I think bands are good, but I mean, again, it was 10 weeks week 1, or sorry, phase 1, 8 weeks phase 2, and then phase 3 we're currently just started week 10, and I know we know that phase 4 is coming soon, but that could be 4 weeks away, so it could be a 14 week phase 3. Just to give us a timing here. But yeah, I think there's nothing that's damaged SoD more than these long leveling bands with not really a huge amount to do. Phase 1, it was really, I think, the biggest issue with this. I know people were really all about phase 1 and how they liked it being 10 weeks. I was never about that, but I think it basically hogged the entire fresh period. Because, you know, we all know that when a fresh era server comes out, people love it, it's fresh. And that's why people look so fondly back on the 10-week phase 1. But then when phase 2 came out, it felt like there was no content to do. I think a lot of that was because phase 1 had hogged up the whole period, and then it had also taken a bunch of stuff that's like sort of shared content that you would do in later phases once you completed the main content. So, you know, level on all, you know, grind golds, get your professions maxed out, you know, get BG rep, you know, that sort of thing. You did all that in phase 1. I mean, I had 2 characters that were exalted with Force on Gold by the time phase 2 rolled out, you know? And so that sort of led to, I think, a lack of content in later phases. And then when those bans lasted a while and all that content already be exhausted from earlier phases, you're just kind of sitting there saying, you know, what am I doing? And then I also think that the longer phases, in particular phase 1 and 2, led to a serious, like, lock-in problem. Like, think about how a bunch of people stopped playing in phase 3. I think some of it was due to the change from 10 man to 20 man. And, you know, irrespective of what you think about 10 or 20 man, the fact of the matter is that by the time Sunken Temple came out, it had already been 18 weeks, like 125 days or so of 10-man raiding being like the main thing that was getting people to come back. So Blizzard had, because of its long leveling bans, it had this lock-in problem, and it cultivated a player base. The sorts of people who are playing, are the people who like 10-man raids. And so when you did the switch in Phase 3, which to some people might say it's so early, but again, for perspective, we're talking about 120 plus days after the launch. That's a long time. It's 18 weeks. People, it caused problems. Or if you think about how people stopped playing and got upset because of balance issues, and Blizzard's response was always, well, it's going to be changed next phase. I mean, that's all well and good if the leveling bans are 4 weeks, but if shamans are OP and destroying you in phase 2, and people start figuring that out week 3, if that changes by week 4 because phase 3 comes out, no problem. If that goes on for another 5 weeks, it starts to become kind of oppressive. Or think about phase 1 with Hunter Geddon and priests being Hunter priests being ridiculously overpowered in Warsong Gulch. I mean that lasted for 10 weeks. So I think had the leveling bans been shorter, this sort of lack of content wouldn't have been felt, and all these other problems like class balance problems, and changing from 10 to 20 man, and even incursions, I think would have been not felt nearly as strongly if like, okay, well, we had that content and we can just move on. So I think the leveling bans, and in particular the timing of them, was the biggest issue. But the concept of leveling bans generally, 4 to 6 weeks, I think would have been fine. Probably more on the 4-week side, but I think that would have been great.
All right, I definitely want to give me one sec. Forded, you go next. I just want to say, remind me when we're done with this topic. I really want to launch in on the 10 versus 20 man thing when we're done with this. Forded, go for it on the level bands.
They screwed up with the launch date. That's why you didn't get 4 to 6 weeks leveling band in phase 1, and then that cascaded the issues into phase 2 and phase 3. If they had waited a month and a half and launched it at the beginning of the new year rather than the end of November, then you could have done the 4 to 6 weeks. If you had done 4 to 6 weeks at the end of November, then you're putting it right after New Year, and you can't do as much development time at that point because of vacations, holidays, things like that. You have a lot of time off for these developers, and they were actively making content for phase 2. So if they had taken that extra month and a half, launched it in January, and used that extra month and a half to work on phase 2 so that you could do quicker rollouts, then you could use phase 1 and phase 2 for fine tuning and working on phase 3, and then do a quicker rollout of phase 3.
Mm-hmm.
And it just moves a little faster.
All right.
But because we launched in November, we're kind of at that middle ground of holidays, then you're planning around everything else in the calendar.
Arcos, how about you on the leveling bands?
I think we should talk less about just how long they last and more about it in relation to not knowing what's next. Like a lot of people I've played with, like in the past, they didn't invest time into SoD because they have no idea what's coming next. Like most of us have now invested 6 months into this, and we have no idea what's coming next. Like we don't know how long this is going to last, right? So I think that's kind of a big issue for people, is that it is long, and that is a problem. But it's so long that you aren't sure if you want to play it a lot because you don't know what's coming next. Like, am I investing this time for nothing, right? So I think if we knew what was coming next, if we knew what the phases were going to be like exactly, if there's 1 new raid or 5 new raids at 60, etc., then I think people are more ready to invest into a long level band phase because they think the investment is worth what's coming next. But now we have no clue, and I think that's a problem for a lot of people.
Pigs, bring us home on the level bands.
I don't mean to be difficult, but yeah, I'm definitely a disagreeer with everything that's been said. I think it should be longer. I like to alienate people who are here for the day-to-day. I want people who like it, and I want to attract people who actually like playing the stuff for the long haul. I think phase 1 should have been way longer. It was by far the best Fate of SoD so far. It was incredible, and it was the tail end that got good because everyone had a couple of alts that are all flipping around, switching between them, world PvPing, raiding, trying out all the things. I'm loving this phase as well. I know there's a lot of bad rap that it's too long also, but I have 4 classes also at 50. I'm trying them all out. I'm trying PvP. There's so much to do, and I want more time, honestly. I'm worried SOD's going to end, and I'm going to be real sad when it does.
All right. Well said. Well, that's that tangent done, guys. Now, I wanted to get to the 10 versus 20 man. We didn't touch on this when we were talking about Sunken Temple, and I just feel like we'd be doing the topic dirty if we didn't raise this. I've got an interesting new viewpoint on this one, but I definitely want to hear from you guys. I'll just say this, like, again, I feel like the conversation around SOD has been really interesting for me, as you know, I've turned into a little bit of an outside observer over the last 6 weeks because, like I said, I started playing Kata, stopped playing SOD, don't really know, you know, went overseas for a month, don't really know what's been happening with the game, but just have had to go by online comments that I've been reading on the subreddit and whatnot. And seeing the mood shift and kind of the commentary change a little bit through phase 3 has been really interesting. And one of the points that I feel like conversation has changed a little bit on has been the 10 and 20 man rating conversation. And like coming into Sunken Temple, I felt the majority of opinions was more leaning towards, yes, bring on 20 man rating. This is going to be great. Higher raid groups, you know, this is going to be really, really cool, whatever. Now that we've had some time with 20 man rating, I do feel like I'm seeing, and I'm just saying, talking about the comments that I see and the prevalence of them, I feel like I see more comments now of people going, oh, you know, 20 man maybe wasn't where it was at. Maybe should we have stuck with 10 man? Oh, we were having a lot of fun with 10 mans. I don't know. This is kind of weird now. Guilds are breaking up or merging, or, you know, the flavor, the landscape has changed with this 20 man rating environment. It's kind of like, no shit, that's what it will do. But then we've got, you know, are we staring down the barrel of another change with 40 man rating and whatnot maybe coming? Now, I share these opinions. I was really excited for 20 man rating. And now that we've had time with it, I've had my opinion changed. And I feel like, you know what? It's part of the magic of that phase 1 that we all rave about was the 10 man BFDs. And I like the more intimate raid settings. And it's great. Maybe 20 man did sort of water things down a little bit. And then I think of 40 mans, and this is where I'll upset some people. Sorry, Vanilla Andes, brace yourselves. And Tito is yeah, Tito's reaching for the fucking baseball bat as I say this. But look, I've always been very middle of the road on 40 man rating. I really could just, I've said on the show many times, I could take it or leave it. Yeah, it's fun, but I'm not like married to it. Like it's whatever to me. A lot of people feel that 40 man rating is just the greatest experience ever and it's magical, and a lot of people feel it's a bit excessive and a nightmare to organize, obviously. I'm starting to feel the pull away from my sitting on the fence stance more towards, I wouldn't say it's a violent pull, but I am starting to lean towards, hey, maybe 40 mans aren't the bee's knees. Like in the modern age of MMO gaming, I often bitch on the show about things that seem to take your time just for the sake of taking your time with no real like obvious benefit or anything. And I point to my greatest example has always been like, I personally will yell at me for many things, but obviously you guys know about my love for RDF. I've long been on the record saying every MMO should have some form of RDF in it. If we need to take away the teleportation to the dungeon as a negotiation chip, I'm more than willing to do that. Just automate my group for fuck's sake, because it's 2024 and in modern MMOs, cutting down times to organize things is key or paramount. People don't play the game to spend their time not playing the game in game, if that makes sense. Another big bugaboo of mine has become over time, whilst people might defend it, the very long walks to your corpse in vanilla WoW. I've again, was very middle of the road on the topic through Classic, and over time I've been like, hey, I actually don't think it's a good thing anymore in 2024 MMO gaming to have people punished with a 3-minute walk to their corpse that can happen on a semi-regular basis. And now we're having people again spending their time in-game playing the game by not playing the game. I just think it's ridiculous. It was fun 20 years ago or whatever. It's silly now and bad game design, in my opinion. Those are just little things of my subjective thought. I've started to lean towards putting 40-man rating in the same boat in terms of like, look, it's fun seeing 40 people on screen and everything, and we all talk about the magic of 40 of us downing a boss and everything, and it's fantasy fucking heaven. But the logistics of the 40-man raid and what it does to us externally is becoming more of a concern of mine, where before I was very ambivalent towards it. Now I'm starting to feel more passionately that it doesn't fit in 2024. I want to be yelled at by all of you. The question is, how do you feel about the 20-man raids in Phase 3? Was it a good or a bad thing shifting the number? And how do you feel about the looming prospect of 40-mans coming down the pipeline? If somebody wants to call me a fuckwit for daring to besmirch the good name of 40-man raiding, please be my guest.
Can I start on this one,
Please,
Josh?
please.
Sunken Temple was probably the wrong place to introduce 20-man. And because it's a very congested, tight hallways, it's just not very conducive to 20-man and being able to spread out, see, and admire everything. It doesn't fit 20-man. 40-man raiding, you had large cavernous places. You had some choke points in Naxxramas and Blackwing Lair, but not very many. So you could spread out. Everybody could see what everybody else is doing. And once you got the content down and you were on farm, it became hilariously fun to drink and raid. With Sunken Temple, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like a chore sometimes. And that just might be because it's level 50 and you're going to replace this gear next phase. And, it's not the end game for you at that point. But yeah, 20-man raiding is probably where it's going to peak for SoD. And I feel sorry for all these small guilds in Phase 1, Phase 2, because they couldn't expand to 4 raid teams in order to build up to 20-mans or something like that. Like, I came from a guild, we had 3 10-man raid teams in Novergun. We could never fill out a 4th because of participation. And so we struggled having 2 raid teams in Sunken Temple. And I feel bad for smaller guilds like that.
All right.
But if they cap it at 20, then you at least, going back to Arcos's point, you know what to expect. So if they come out and say, hey, we're going to tune everything down to 20-man, and that's going to be the raid cap for the remainder of SoD. If they come out and say that, you're going to get a lot of people coming back to SoD because now they know what they need to plan for, what they need to recruit for, what they need to join up a guild in. That kind of thing.
All right. Pigs, let me throw it to you. I just want to throw in a little bit more flavor because I think I invited someone to call me a cockhead, and I think you're going to happily take up that invitation. Let me just say that, and I did say this, when I rail against 40-man, when I start to rail against 40-man raiding, and why I'm saying that the growing raid sizes concern me, again, I said logistically, and I'm like, I love the look of 40 people on the screen. I think it's fucking great. If you've got the loot proportionality, I think it's lovely. My big thing is when a game asks administration time out of the player, where they're in the game but they're not actually playing the game. You're sitting in Orgrimmar trying to get 40 people together to go to a raid with you, blah 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 blah. I don't think that meshes well in 2024 gaming environment. But I'm the world's biggest, and this is again where people, their blood will boil. I'm the world's biggest RDF stan. So I'm like, something like if there were, the old LFR that everyone hates. I'm not saying do LFR, but I'm saying like if there's a group automation tool that puts 40 people together instantly but doesn't teleport you to the dungeon or whatever, and it just gives you, here's your 5 tanks, your fucking 8 healers, and whatever the numbers are. If it just does it automatically for you, then give me 40-man raiding. I don't give a fuck. Just save people administration time. That's my whole key. Is like, I'm sick of all the people who are, every time this happens, the people who are so pro 40-man raids and they fight to the death for 40-man raids. They give you a 5-minute diatribe passionately spitting through the microphone about how anyone who doesn't like 40-man raids is a fucking, a vanilla fucking traitor and all that shit. The follow-up question is always, oh, cool. Have you ever organized a 40-man raid or run a guild in vanilla? And the answer 95% of the time is no. Well, of course you love fucking 40-man raids. You just get to turn up and it's all done for you. You didn't have to do any of the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into it. So I'm like, do fucking 200-man raids. I don't care if you just cut down the admin time. Does that make more sense, Pigs, or do you still want to call me a cockhead?
Okay, when you frame it so reasonably and tactfully, it's hard for me to call you an asshole. Yes, everything you raised is fair and fine. Then I guess that's your lawyer side coming out. It's hard for me to argue, but also in my opinion, you're completely wrong. I don't give a fuck about their admin time. I don't care. If someone wants to quit, it's too much for them, whine, then stop running guilds, stop running raids. A raid is 40 guys who are sweaty running into a fucking cavern and killing shit. It's not 10 close friends that quietly talk shit on Discord. Like, there needs to be drama. There needs to be difficulty in getting these human beings there. And there needs to be hatred, and there needs to be cliques. And like, that is classic WoW. Again, social content that is created out of nowhere or ad hoc, and that is what raiding induces and provides. And I want 80-man raids. I want it to be hard for you to get the people together because it creates great gameplay, in my opinion. And yes, I have never led a guild to Joss, so
no, I feel you, but I feel like we're you and I share a common sort of like structure, Pigs, in that we're MMO gamers who don't want every player to have the same piece of gear. We want, content to separate the men from the boys and everything. I think where we deviate is you're happy to introduce external difficulty in terms of IRL, issues with putting the raids together. Whereas that's kind of just where I personally draw the line, going, I want all the difficulty to be manufactured in game, as opposed to also asking out of game difficulty to come into the equation. But I still get what you're saying.
Yeah, I know Classic some there's a lot of argument with Classic is like, are hurdles good? What does Agren call it? Friction. What's the necessary and the necessary friction, and what is the hindrance to engagement with the game? I do think you want to remove this friction, which is a point, but I don't know if that stays true to Classic theory. But I don't know. I could be wrong.
Mate, I just want to say I love you so much. I'm so happy every time you're here. You're a fucking delight to talk to, and I love that you can call me a cockhead and I still feel the love.
Yeah. Don't get. Let's not get too gushy, dude.
Yeah, all right. We'll go make out afterwards. It's all good. Hey, Arcos. Everything Pigs just said, I have a funny feeling would float your boat, but I'm not quite sure. You can zig when I think you're going to zag. Where do you go on this argument?
I like demands. I don't care about people's complaints about 40 months.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with Touch Pigs. It'd be difficult. You shouldn't be able to, like, any average normal person shouldn't be able to just walk in and get everything handed to them on a plate. should be epic. There should be drama. There should be clicks. All that stuff. And yeah, I am someone who's running it for pretty much 5 years. I run my current guild alone. I have no officers. I do everything. I have anywhere from 40 to 60 raters, depending on like how people's IRL is. That's the way it's been for the entirety of Season of Discovery. I have no intention of having officers or anyone else do any of the work. So I don't really care that people cry, oh, it's so difficult to get 40 people. No, it's difficult to get 40 people to do a raid in the way that you want to do it. So maybe you need to be a little bit more efficient, do it a little bit better, faster. Don't have no requirements, because then people feel like their time is being wasted. Like, these are all, I think, valid things that people who lead need to ask themselves. Just because you want to be a casual doesn't necessarily mean that everyone else wants to be as well. I think that's something that trips people over. Like, you don't want to take things too seriously. That's completely fair. You want to play the game however you want to. That's completely fair. But if you then have issues making a raid because it's too big for you, and maybe you should consider why that is. And I think that's why people complain about it. Like,
Well
you have
said.
an issue with the roster. I mean, you're the issue, right? Like, the way that you're doing things might be the issue rather than just the raid size.
There you go. Pigs, you're applauding.
Oh, by far. You're right. I can never pin Arcos down. I always think I'm going to disagree with him, and then he just comes out with it better than I could have said, and I totally agree with him.
He's an enigma within a mystery. Go forward.
Puts a different light on everything when it comes to 40-man raiding. Like, you just gotta find the right people that fit your style and get on with it.
Just to combat this whole applause for level-headed Arcos, fucking story that we're going down now. Just for that, Arcos, with your consent, I think for the Patreon subscribers, I am going to release our 20-minute argument at the start of this recording. Is that okay? Or you can say no.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
All right.
Fine.
Just so people...
I think we should. I think that's what people subscribe to Countdown Classic for. The argument about drink walking is great.
Yeah.
We're here for the argument, Arcos.
Yeah, so if you want 20 minutes of me really yelling at Arcos for being a massive piece of shit over this drink walking discussion, subscribe to the Patreon and I'll drop it there.
20 minutes on water and WoW.
Yeah, literally. We had a 20-minute argument about water in WoW. Oh my God. Anyway. Yeah, so that one will cost you $1 or $2, guys. Look into it. Hey, I'm trying to think. Okay, so the next thing I want to review, we've gone down a few tangents here. The next thing I want to review is the classes. And I know it's hard because we all play different classes and not everyone has a million ults and all that shit. But just by whatever you go with what you can from what you've played. We're talking the runes, we're talking the gameplay, we're talking how the roles feel, everything. So just, I guess it really is just the gameplay discussion of Season of Discovery Phase 3. Let me know who wants to start, but from all the classes you've played, tell me about how you feel about Blizzard's handling of each individual, we won't go into each individual class and spec, but you know what I mean, overall how they've done, and if there's anything they can improve on in Phase 4. Who wants to start?
Healing balance. I'll just start off as a mainline healer. Healing balance between the classes sucks ass. Druids are so far and above and beyond most other classes. A really good disciplined priest or a really good holy priest can sometimes stay up with druids, but the throughput that a single druid has is better than 2 other healers of any other class for the most part. If the druid has gear and knows what they're doing, it's insane. That there's no reason one particular class should be able to solo heal Sunken Temple for the most part.
So the Resto Druid is the blood DK of SoD.
Basically, yes.
Okay, I'm playing Resto Druid in the wrong fucking version of the game. All right, I got to get a fucking Druid going on SoD. Pigs, you're a healer. Does that make a lot of sense to you?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I seen you doing Resto and Kata. I mean, the Druid is the same in SoD right now, and it's dominating. You would have a blast. I was a Druid hater until SoD. I never played them. Every time I played them, I got them to 20, got the cat, quit. I think I have like 5 level 20 Druids in Era. But SoD has really made the Druid pop for me, and as a healer, I just love. And I know healing meters don't matter for some reason, but I'm always on the top, and it makes me feel good.
Well, that's because your overheal is counted
Oh
in the healing
yeah,
meters.
oh yeah, I got the top overheal as well.
That was
young man.
always-
Yes, sir. I'm
that-
sniping heals. I'm healing pets. I don't give a
Well,
fuck.
And that's what I was saying. Like druids are so good AOE and single target, and place a spell on the ground, and everybody that walks through it gets healed. Motherfucker.
I would get in these fucking arguments. Speaking of overhealing, I would get in these because I love healing. It's so much fun, but healers are just cut from a different cloth when it comes to arguments. In Final Fantasy 14, I would get into it with people where it's like, and again, they don't have fucking DPS meters, but you know there are ways around that. But like, you get situations where like, you know, someone does 10% more healing than me, but then I go, yeah, but 70% of your heals were overhealing and 30% of mine were overhealing. So who do you think is the fucking better healer, dickhead? And it's just like, nah, my number's bigger. And you just go, oh, fucking hell. Anyway.
Exactly.
All right, so you're
that's
you're
exactly
more about the
what
motion
druids.
of the ocean, not the
That's right.
the actual size.
Not the size of the
You know how to
wave.
use
Not the
it, but
size
you
of the
don't have
wave.
a hard number.
Exactly. Oh my god. Look, fucking.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's go into.
Are you guys just playing full resto, or are you playing restokin?
In Cat, I'm full resto. There's
In
no,
SoD, the other guys.
Back to
you
our
gotta
water
go,
argument,
you gotta
I
go all
refuse
the
to do
way.
any DPS as a druid. I just
Yeah, I mean,
Then
I
I kind
made
of disagree
my
with the
priest.
premise of druids being overpowered. I think druids are actually the worst healer. They're only useful as a restokin for wild growth.
Well, there you go. Someone
SoD,
someone
that's
punch
my
him back. I
opinion.
thought the universal opinion was Druid's Abyss. What's going on?
I just feel that the AoE heal from the and utility from the priest is more valuable as a full-time healer, and the single target healing and utility
single
of the whole
target
paladin.
single target
Yeah.
paladin, yes, but a druid can single target heal really well as well. They have multiple AoE healings with wild growth, as well as their on the ground, their tranquility that they can now spam basically. They get a lot beefier now with the ability to push through heals, and they snipe like no others.
I agree, but sniping isn't valuable, and overhealing isn't valuable to the raid team. Like, it increases your meter, but it's
No,
not helping me in the raid.
It's
And
not
that's kind of
valuable,
why
but
I prefer the others. I'm not going to give up stamina buff or shields or pom for life bloom.
no.
That's just not
We're
happening.
we're not saying that you would give up the priest or give up the paladin, but a resto druid, it really is so far beyond those in regards to the AoE healing that it hurts the other classes. It doesn't just elevate the druid; it actually elevates the druid to the point of, well, do we need to bring that second priest, or do we really need a holy priest if we have a resto druid and a holy paladin?
Fair enough.
In my opinion, yes, because
Huh?
I don't want to give up the priest utility at all, because the druid brings utility in battle res. Resto kid could do that. The priest brings other utility that a shadow priest would not bring, right? So I would, as an alliance, I would always run a disc priest, a holy paladin, and a resto kin, or like I've run not a Rastakin as well and just two-healed the thing. Right? I don't really feel like the druid would ever, at the moment, has enough in their kit to warrant dropping one of the other two healers. So if you're going to two-heal anyway, you're not taking a druid. Right?
That's
All
not what
kind
I've
of
seen.
my
That's
thing
not
about
what
it.
I've seen with a lot of pugs. Is they want a resto druid over a priest.
Our pugs two-healing, I don't think so. But
Pigs.
yeah, like resto druid is definitely strong, but if you have only two healers available, I don't think you would pick a resto druid and drop the other two. Maybe on horde because maybe shaman isn't to par. I'm not sure.
Pigs, were you going to say something there?
No. But if you want me to chime in, I got you.
No, all good, all good. We'll fucking let the healing nerds duke that one out in the Discord. Guys, we won't get too far off topic, but I'll just say, where are we now? I'll just say, hey, Moist, thanks so much for joining, man. You just here to listen in, or did you have something you wanted to chime in with?
I'm just listening. I'm from the UK, man. I just I love your podcast, man. It's good.
All good, man. Thanks so much for being here. You're more than welcome to listen in. All good, brother. Hey, Fred, you know, I'll get you going in on the classes, Fred, and see. I know you're a shaman aficionado, but from what you've played, we'll get you sort of commenting on where Blizzard's at with the classes in Phase 3 and moving into Phase 4. I'll just say this one quick thing as well, Fred, though. Like, we one of the things I hope that we all love and appreciate about Countdown to Classic is it's one of the few shows in the world where we can say things with a straight face. Like, I agree with I Touch Pigs and welcome to the show, Moist, don't you think?
Yeah, it's definitely a unique draw of Countdown to Classic.
So, mate, your thoughts on the classes and how they're feeling in Phase 3?
Yeah, I mean, I'm playing a shaman, so it feels pretty good right now.
Well, hang on. Fuck you and fuck you, shamans. You fucking pricks ride the roller coaster between hating and loving that class through SoD so much. I swear to God, 6 weeks ago, you guys had the fucking doomer mentality going, oh, it's all broken. What's going on?
That was about Shaman Tank.
Right.
All the Shaman Tank players have pretty much abandoned ship and gone DPS Shaman, myself included. Shaman Tank is horrible, absolutely horrible, unusable. It doesn't really make sense thematically or from a actual performance perspective. It's really not fun. But DPS Shaman is popping off right now. I mean, if I look at the 95% parse right now, it's just edged out by Warriors, but we'll catch him. No, but I like the balance. So I'm playing this. I'm also playing a ranged hunter, which they did a lot to sort of address the disparity between ranged hunter and melee hunter at the start of the phase. Has made ranged hunter feel pretty valuable. Of course, it was languishing for all of phase 2, but that is what it is. So yeah, I think they're doing a good job. I mean, the balance isn't perfect. There's no doubt about that. But compared to the bar that is Era, it's phenomenal. I mean, really. It's hard to think that this is, based off of the same base game, considering how much better the balance is in SoD as it is compared to the classic Era.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm really liking it. I think they did a good job. I don't really see many complaints about class balance. When I do, it's usually about PvP. So I think people are generally liking the class balance. I think what's driving players away are the long time between phases.
Any general thoughts on rune philosophy moving into Phase 4 across all classes? Is there anything that anyone's really missing, or is there I don't know? I'm just going to give you shitty examples. Is there? I don't know. Is there not enough interrupts in the game? Is there not enough mana return? What's the game missing via runes that it might need in Phase 4 across the board?
Yeah, I mean that's a tough question for me to answer because I can only look at it from my shaman perspective. And from my perspective, I kind of think, at least from an enhancement shaman perspective, things are looking. We're kind of a complete class at this point, as compared to vanilla, which very much weren't. I know that the rune that's been leaked that everyone thinks is going to happen is Spirit Wolves, Feral Spirits, which is the Wrath of the Lich King final talent. I'm really hoping that won't be the case because that's going to homogenize the class a whole bunch.
I don't get it. Everyone, every shaman stand that I talk to doesn't want Spirit Wolves in SoD. And I'm the only fucking prick that's absolutely do it. I adore Spirit Wolves. What's going on?
Well, you're not a true shaman, Josh. Oh, go ahead.
Well, so when I think of...
We don't want the wolves, dude. We don't want it.
When I think of vanilla shaman and also now SoD shaman and PvP, this whole thing, not that this was ever met in Classic because it was terrible, but like it's like, okay, it's an easily kiteable class. It's the only class of the game, only class in the game currently. This will change when Spirit Wolves happen. Without any form of hard CC, you have terrible CC. It's just slows and I guess an interrupts too. But no hard CC, no way to gap close. And so it's like, look, like if you're ranged and you lose to a shaman, I think you can really realistically say, yeah, that's just like a severe skill issue. But once you have feral spirits stun the target. So all of a sudden, one of the unique things about this class was that it, didn't have hard CC. It was the only one that didn't have it. Now it has hard CC. It has a point and click stun through feral spirits, and feral spirits give you a sprint button, and feral spirits give you a blessing of freedom. And so it's like, okay. So this class's entire identity is like, yeah, like I'm really kiteable and I don't have hard CC, is now not kiteable because they have sprint plus blessing of freedom and they have hard CC from stun. It just to me, it feels very homogenizing. I understand if maybe Blizzard wants to make like a really big balance pass on PvP and balance it, that having this class enhancement shaman, which absolutely destroys warriors and feral druids, but then like kind of has like on the conversely like a bad match against any class that has the ability to kite it, which is every class. Maybe that's not like the best, and it's hard to get in a proper balance space. But in terms of like flavor and uniqueness and how it feels, having feral spirits, I think is just like the antithesis of what vanilla shaman PvP is.
All right, Pigs, jump in. You might support what Fred was saying, and you're right to say, hey, Josh, you like them because you're a fucking amateur shaman. You're a fucking dickhead. I just keep calling me a dickhead. I like it. It's like being kicked in the nuts. Do it, Pigs.
We all like that. I'm one of the shaman. Like I like Meldron. He's my boy. Meldron, we need you back. We need you here. I want to hear about Flame Tongue Totem and how it's better when you have a faster weapon. Whatever. I love it. We need more shaman content. I like the original archetype of shaman, and even in SoD we're kind of getting away with it with a dual wield, and I really don't care too hot for it, but it does feel good. It feels good. And I disagree with I forget who spoke about Shaman Tank. I think that is
Fred, yeah.
Very on point with the lore. Put the fucking rocks on me, and I want to take some damage and spray lava everywhere. I mean, I'm a Shaman stan. I think it's in a good spot. I'm just obsessed, and I will never stop wearing a skirt. And I wish there were more male skirts in the game. That's what we should advocate for as Shaman as well.
There you go. All right.
We need more kilts.
More kilts, more skirts, do it all. Now, look, let me push you guys a little bit here. Pigs, what other classes have you tried inside? I think you said you've got a few, right?
But yeah, Shaman main, but I'm a healer at heart, so it's Priest and Druid are the other two. And I can't heal on Shaman. That's one thing that also Shaman's missing. I mean, the rest of Shaman is looking grim right now. It's rough out there for the rain healing. It's just so bad. I mean, I want to be the resto guy, but it's so bad.
Yeah. Do you guys not
I'm
have?
Sure
You don't have
Arthur's gonna test.
Riptide.
He would never bring a resto shaman to his raid. Am I correct?
You don't have Riptide yet, right?
We do have it.
Oh, you do have Riptide. Okay, all right.
Even with Riptide,
Oh.
your throughput as a shaman at this point in level 50, just not there. Just not there.
I see. Well, look, across the board then, Pigs, from all the classes you've dabbled with, how do you feel about the Phase 3 iterations of the classes? What would you improve on moving forward into Phase 4?
Well, I've tried to bring this up before on the show, and I was limited on my speaking time, and I think there's a lot of bloat right now, man, and I know we're only going to get more. I think there's too much going on with all of the classes, and I don't think there's anything we need more of. I think we need less, but I know that's not happening in my dream world, but I think there's too much going on right now.
All right. As you're going back and forth with Mike in Twitch chat, and he says, we just need to condemn Pigs to living in 2004 for eternity with all of these takes of his.
Please.
Yeah.
Please.
Send me back to a time when fucking Britney was still charting. Absolutely. All right, guys. Let's go, Arcos. Fucking hit me with your takes on the classes. Are we in a good spot, bad spot? What do you need in Phase 4? Maybe he's asleep. He's asleep for sure.
Sorry, I'm puking.
I'm busy masturbating over here.
Wait, what? You're pipping?
Huh?
What? What is that?
What are you doing?
Is that a European thing? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were saying. My bad, brother.
I'm fighting a warlock.
Pigs could PvP and talk at the same time. Can't you do two things at once?
I'm doing it. I was trying to speak. You were
L2P.
interrupting.
L2P.
He's dead. What was the question? Sorry.
The question was, how do you feel about your classes in SoD and what needs to change going forward into Phase 4? Are you happy with everything?
I'm definitely not happy with everything. I think that's impossible. I agree with Ato's picks. There is way too much going on. We have way too many buttons to press. I would like some type of consolidation of runes, for example. They did say, I think, something about making some runes baseline abilities. I think that goes a long way. To remove some of the kind of bloat, like if they take 2 runes, make it somehow a baseline ability. I think that could remove some bloat. Going to 60, of course, I think their tuning, like balance tuning, can probably be a little bit tighter, knowing that they won't probably be adding more runes that might scale weirdly with this, that, or the other. So I think that we might just see that naturally. Of course, for Warrior, just we have a percent modifier issue that we've talked about before. I hope they heard those discussions because don't want them to normalize raids.
No, they hear them. I just say, without going into detail, they do hear them. I got a very kind note from Regrend about a week or so ago involving his listening to the show. So let's hope your thoughts, we know they go directly to the earballs, Arcos.
Yeah, I mean, I hope. But if we look at the DPS output like now versus when he made that post, everything is much tighter. Like, yeah, Warrior is still at the top on single target, but like Mage blows everything out of the water on AoE. Shadow Priests are very strong on AoE. I think they want to tighten things up more, and I think personally that normalizing rates is a way knee-jerk reaction. And I think the logs reflect that. But yeah, what more do I want?
Fair enough.
Just fucking fix PvP so we can enjoy world PvP without everyone quitting the game because it's glass cannon.
Fair
That
enough.
would be nice.
Fair enough. Hey, Pigs, mate. Sorry, I've got a sore back. Can you just pick up off the floor that name that I dropped of a Gren there? Is that all right, mate?
You want me to talk about a Grand?
No, Fred knows what I'm talking about. Don't worry about it. I'm just being a
I
dickhead.
missed it. Over my head. Sorry, guys.
It's all good. It's all good. Hey, Forded, mate, let's you started off, but is there any other classes that you've mucked around with that you want to comment on and how they feel in Phase 3 moving into Phase 4?
Paladin tank feels really good.
Yeah.
Hunter, I agree with everybody that ranged hunter being brought up close to melee hunter feels really good to be able to say, hey, yeah, I can swap specs here and there. That feels great. Dual spec helped a lot this phase. I will say that. And I agree with Arcos and I Touch Pigs. There's way too many buttons right now. Rotations are really bloated for relatively short fights now. That to me feels like a miss. Like, call me crazy, but I shouldn't be having to hit 8 buttons to go through, or 8 globals to go through a rotation to get down to my 5 global rotation because I had to do 3 casts to get off my debuffs.
Fuck, mate. Don't ever play Summoner in Final Fantasy 14, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, but on a 30-second fight, those 8 globals take up 2/3 of the fight, basically. That to me feels like a waste.
Fair enough, mate. Boys, let's give a 5-star review. Forded, you started. I know you can only go off of what you've played, but this is a 5-star out of 5 of your personal happiness with the classes that you play in Phase 3. What would you go with?
4 out of 5.
4 out of 5. Okay, very good. Fred?
Good, 4.5 out of 5.
4.5. All right, very good. Arcos?
All the classes I play,
Yeah.
I think Feral is only good for being a wintry bot, but otherwise 3, 4 out of 5.
Oh, it's a big difference between 3 or 4. Which is it, Sunshine?
I would say Disc Priest, definitely 4 out of 5. Fury Warrior, Gladiator Warrior, 2.5, 3 out of 5.
All right. Bring us home, pigs.
What is the question?
What would you give? I love it.
I'm killing this goddamn hunter named Priscilla in Ungora Crater.
Oh, no, beautiful.
Priscilla,
Keep
if you're
going.
listening, stop taking my thorium veins, bro, and you won't get fucked up anymore. Stop.
Are you fighting him now? Commentator, what's happening?
He's dead.
Yes.
He's done.
He's dead? Are you busy teabagging
He's a
him?
goofball. He's nothing.
Are you
It's
teabagging
done.
him as we speak?
Well, I think
Can
he
I-
took rest.
can I
there.
get-
His body is gone.
What server do you play on? I touch.
I'm on the
Pigs,
Lone
just
Wolf
here.
Horde. Pull up.
Ah,
You got a problem?
There you go.
No. I'm living Flame Alliance, man. If you were on Living Flame, I'd come
Okay.
find you.
Can I
also- I'm
get
not
can
that
I get
good.
your
I'm not
30-second
that
Pigs, can I get your 30-second take on a topic we've never broached on Countdown to Classic in 6.5 years, which is the topic of teabagging? Where do you stand on the act of teabagging?
Always.
What do you think? Yeah.
Always.
Always.
Do it. You shouldn't do it any
Always.
less than you should. Yeah, always.
All right, no, I will go
You should
back.
be keybound.
Yeah, but I reckon we'll
It should
disagree
be-
on this
isn't
one.
nice keybind as well. Like it should be very quick after the final kill shot. You should be very quick. to press it.
I'm weird about this, Pigs. I think there is an etiquette to teabagging. I think there is an appropriate amount of time spent teabagging after a victory. Where do you stand on how much time do you spend teabagging?
You know what? I also have some grace about it. I don't do it on the first kill, but if they come back and bother me again, I'm dropping nuts in mouths because get out of you're in my zone.
How many
Fine.
times are you
You know?
pressing that X button? How many seconds are we dipping nuts?
Fast. Like 20 times in a 10-second period for sure.
Oh, I'd come after you. I'm weird. I want to see no more than 3 teabags. If I see excessive teabagging, I'm throwing a flag on the field and I'm camping you.
Again, you like the loving aspect of it. You're slow with it. You drop it intentionally.
Yes.
Once or twice with purpose.
Yes.
I think.
Yes, I'm gentle and passionate.
It's erotic.
Yeah, it's very erotic.
And that makes me feel bad for the people who don't have auto accept release. Enabled. The
You
add-on.
can't do that. Sometimes it's good to stick around and watch the show.
Oh.
And hey, I'm a
No.
teabagger, but I love getting teabagged. I'm like, yeah, I fucked up.
Yeah,
I
no,
shouldn't have-
you
I
have
tried to kill you while you pulled a mob. I'm an asshole, and you still killed me. I deserve some nuts in my mouth.
you absolutely have to sit around and watch what they do to your body afterwards, because that will then fuel me for what happens next.
Again,
Oh,
emerging
just the
content.
fact that you
Come on.
killed me fuels me to come back and find you.
No, that's not, just killing me is not enough. I don't always want revenge just because I got killed. I usually do, but not always necessarily. But
Name
yeah.
me one time you didn't go out and seek revenge.
I'll give you a good example. If, let's say, for whatever reason, I'm fighting a mob in the open world and someone comes out of nowhere and I was at 10% health and they just hit the one global to fucking finish me off, and then I see them teabag me for 20 seconds, you better believe I'm spending the next half an hour with that person. No questions asked.
Right, but again,
I
name me a
don't think-
time where you didn't go after them.
Well, no, but if they didn't teabag me excessively, I would have, probably only killed them once.
So it's the number of teabags.
Yeah, that's
There's
what I'm
a
saying.
magic-
It's a
magic
penalty
teabag
on the
number.
field, excessive teabagging. I will be the arbiter of whatever fucking arbitrary number I pull out of my ass in terms of the amount of seconds I'm willing to tolerate being teabagged
Hey,
for.
wait a minute. We're talking about teabagging and you're pulling shit out of your ass? Come
Oh,
on,
mate, it's all happening. Trust me. It's fucking. It's all fair.
One death per teabag. I think that's the rate.
All right, boys.
I think you don't have enough PvE skin in the game for the server war, because for me with the all right. Admittedly, I was the very, very small faction on the server, so we got blasted a lot. But it's like spring 1945, and it's the Fuhrer is calling total war. Like everyone is on it. Like there's no discounts, there's no grace, there's nothing. If you come near, you get killed and you're teabagged, for 5 minutes at least.
Arcos, if I could. Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
I want to sort of change the topic back just real quick. Sorry to get us off the
dare you.
teabagging conversation. Not a phrase I thought I'd ever utter. Arcos, I want to nettle you on this point you made about feral druids being useless, because I actually just opened up Warcraft logs just because I was curious. Feral druids are 7th on the meters, but if you compare their relative damage they're doing compared to warriors, who are the top DPS, compared to Era, they're sitting where rogues are sitting, who are 2nd. I don't think anyone in Era would ever said rogues are useless, and feral druids doing 79% of Fury's damage, just like rogues are doing, according to the Nax logs. So it seems to me like they're actually providing pretty good utility for their party. Leader of the pack, Wind Fury weapon, which a rogue obviously does not provide to his party in vanilla. So I'm just curious why you're so down on feral.
Which percentile are you looking at?
95 percentile for both Nax and for ST. COC feral druids are doing
95. They don't. They are smack middle of the pack with elemental summon, like on the curve, right? They definitely have utility. They can BRS. They can AoE taunt. I will always bring at least 2, most often 3 ferals to a raid, but it's 95% of that is wintry. Like if they, let's say at 60, if they add wintry to every druid spec and made it red white, I probably would not have a feral at all. I would just have a Rastokin.
Jeez. Fair enough. I guess looking at different levels of min-maxing. At that level too. You probably in Era you don't really want to bring that many rogues either, because a rogue is a warrior spot missing, except for whoever's doing IEA.
And but a big caveat here is, just because the logs say something, you need the people to perform to that level, right? Like there's absolutely no reason for me to say that a feral is useless, etc. if he or she is beating other people on the meters, right? So you always need to take all of this with like a little bit of grain of salt. Like if you have the perfect player and they are playing to that level, then yeah, there is difference there. But I have a rogue in my raid who routinely beats warriors on single target and overall. So like him as a rogue, even though the 95th percentile or the 99th percentile will show a rogue way below, there are players that definitely go outside of that kind of range, right?
It is pretty good. If you look at their 3rd, they're less than 100. That's less than a 10% difference between warriors and rogues. This sort of, I guess, was going to what I said earlier, but like, really, I think SoD is, at least looking at PvE, extraordinarily well balanced. You have 7 classes here, between 1 and 7 in the same percentile distribution as we have between 1 and number 2, in vanilla, and then it's actually even smoother after that too than vanilla. So I don't know.
You don't feel like you're losing a bunch if you bring a rogue over a warrior or a melee hunter over a rogue. You may lose some utility, but you don't lose drastic amounts of DPS.
I think I think that depends so much just on the players you're working with.
Boys, I got one final question for you. I want to start to wrap this one up because we got one more topic I want to talk about after we're done with the SoD Phase 3 review. I want to wrap this one up by just asking, before we get to your overall 5-star review for Phase 3, I just want to say, and this is a very hard one to answer, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. Hey Zim, how are you, mates?
Jesus Christ.
What's going on, buddy?
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about that.
No, that's all right. I think it's a good fucking point for it after the teabagging conversation. This podcast has gotten very spicy all of a sudden. Zim,
Yeah,
I'll tell you what.
One OnlyFans, Joes.
Yeah, we'll throw you in the mix just before I ask this last question to everyone. Zim, just to catch you up, basically, give me 60 seconds on your overall thoughts on Phase 3 so far.
Yeah, I think Phase 3, the intro to it was great. Obviously, there's everybody took advantage of the Nightmare Incursions, which I think now it's pretty evened out. The raid, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I know I was a big proponent of like, hey, why mess with the raid before everybody gets to, actually do the raid? Like all the nerfs that happened to it. I do think the upgrade of all the caster gear is a bit, it's good for casters, bring them up to everybody else's speed. Everybody else feels bad. Whatever, don't really care. I play a shaman. So, but ultimately, I think Phase 3 has been the best phase yet. There's a ton of stuff to do, so much that you could easily get overwhelmed, but it still feels like now we're just kind of in this awkward waiting period, which I'm sure a lot of people have kind of touched on already.
Well, that's an interesting one, Zim, that like I'm with you in that there seems to be more to do in the game than ever in Phase 3, but I feel like in the SoD post-mortem, everyone's going to point to Phase 3 and be like, ooh, that was a rocky period.
Oh yeah, I understand. Like, especially if you've already cleared the raid, like it only takes a couple weeks for everybody to get all their tier gear or all their token gear or whatever. And now it's like, well, what's next? And unless you're a speed runner or you're trying to make as much gold as you possibly can, it may seem like there's not a lot to do. I mean, you could also level all of your alts from Phase 1 that you left in the dust. It's just like there is stuff to do if you want stuff to do. If you wanted to sit back and not worry about stuff, it's also like Grant said, you could easily take a break and take a step back.
Mate, I'll get you rolling on the final question here. You can start first. And as I was saying, it's a hard question to answer. But again, going towards that sort of community feels at the moment. Kata's come out. A lot of people are having a good time with Kata. SoD's still sitting there in Phase 3. Phase 4 news is just around the corner. The SoD rating scene has dipped considerably, but that was always going to happen one way or another with a fresh Kata server coming out. So it's so hard to say why SoD has dipped. Like when you point to why people are not playing SoD over the last few weeks, you can't specifically say sort of whether it's SoD's fault or whether it's Kata's fault or whatever. But with SoD Phase 4 just around the corner, do you think that Phase 4 is going to be enough and the level 60 max cap, all that shit, is going to be enough to bring everyone back to SoD, like ready and fucking firing to go?
Oh, yeah. I definitely think that level 60, you'll see, the flip-flop. You'll see Kata go down and you'll see SoD come back to, initial. Just because level 60 is what everybody wants, right? They want that level 60. They want to see all the new runes. It's just like any other launch ever in Blizzard. It's like, oh, it's new. It's different. It's we need this right now. It's, what's hottest on the market and what's the newest on the market. Everybody's got to have it. And then it'll, after people start clearing the raid after a couple of weeks, and I'm sure another tier of Cataclysm will, it'll just keep, flip-flopping for Kata's existence or SoD's existence.
Fred, let me throw this next sort of building off of that to you, and I think Pigs is going to sort of be nodding along to a bunch of what I say here, but much to Pigs' chagrin, Fred, you'll be nodding along to what I say here. I feel like what Zim just said with the likelihood that a lot of people do return to SoD once Phase 4 releases. Look, Kata is doing well, but it's a fresh. SoD Phase 4 will perhaps do well because it's kind of like a fresh. It's a new thing. You brought this up about an hour and a half ago, Fred, in relation to, fresh is always going to be something that people gravitate towards. We know that. That's not news or anything, but it's just a thing. But it sort of has me thinking about, you guys, if you're boomers like me, the movie Twister, fucking sequel's coming out soon. It strikes up the image, Fred, of like the sort of pseudo-mad storm chaser. And that's the classic, or just maybe not the classic player base, but just MMO player bases in general. Are we just those storm chasers now who are just always chasing the fresh? And I say to Pig's chagrin, because he was just vouching earlier for, I wish people would just, stick around longer, get more involved in the day-to-day of an MMO. That's where the beauty of it is. Stop doing flavor of the month shit and just checking in for a moment or two. Make the game something that you do want to play on a frequent basis and get involved in the day-to-day life of the server. However, I feel like with all these different versions of WoW that are becoming available to us, Mop Remix, fucking, Kata, SoD, everything that's happening, we are just a band of locusts moving from fresh to fresh, and that's quite frankly what Blizzard wants. That's the environment that they have created for us, Fred. Do you think that SoD Phase 4 is destined to succeed because of that?
Yeah, to some extent. I mean, there's definitely going to be people coming back. I think the Band of Locusts example is definitely on point. I mean, I played on private servers, and that you couldn't be a private server player without having this sort of as a main thing you have in mind. So yeah, I think there will be a big increase of people coming back for Phase 4 for that reason specifically. But I'm hoping they'll stay. But I guess I don't have the numbers. I'm sure Blizzard has better numbers on this about sort of the cross pollination between the various game versions. I'm not someone who's played Kata. I'm not someone who played Mop Remix. Those aren't something interesting to me. But I can for sure see that, like, if they have the numbers, they're like, hey, like the people who are playing SoD are people who we think we can capture with these other games. Then yeah, I mean, why wouldn't they coordinate their release schedule, which you seem to have been doing, to just get people constantly ping-ponging back and forth? I mean, it's one shared sub, so you might as well.
All right. Pigs, let me throw it to you. More on this. Do you think that SoD Phase 4 will get like the Godfather, just when you think you're out, you pull me back in? Will it be successful for the reasons that I've said or others?
Yeah. So successful needs to be defined. I don't know if a lot of people are going to come back. I think they will. I know there's a lot of doom and gloom, but I think less people probably will than we think they are going to do. But I think those that'll come back will have a great time. But to go almost contradict myself earlier, and I do like soaking it in and living in the moment. I do think fresh is king, and I like fresh. And Phase 4 will be a fresh, but also, speaking of fresh, we need a fucking era fresh. Like, let's get after it, please. Please, guys, we need a fresh.
Oh, we're going to talk about that.
No changes.
Stick around, Pigs, because I've got a lot of questions for you and Fred on that next topic of Vanilla Fresh. We'll be there in like 5 minutes. Arcos, let's go to you, mate. Are people going to come back for Phase 4 SoD?
Yeah, of course.
Good input.
Nice.
Great. Well said.
I'm still dueling this fucking warlock, man. Yeah, I mean, every time, like you said, every time something new releases, there's going to be hype. Like, that's without a doubt.
Okay.
The question is how long is it going to survive in that state? Like, the new stuff that they bring, is it going to be exciting enough to keep people interested and invested? It kind of comes into my thought process with the phase length. If we know what's coming, if we can get excited for it, then I think people will stay and they will prepare for it, etc., etc. But if we still have no clue what the new raid is, when it's coming, how it's going to be, is it going to be 20, is it going to be 40, is Sparking Lair going to be 20 or 40, then I still think people will be apprehensive about like investing their game time here instead of jumping in between fresh content releases.
He was able to speak with clarity on all that just then because the Warlock killed him and he was just staring at his dead body.
Did you get, now the question of the night, did you get teabagged?
I did not get teabagged.
Did you win or
because
not?
I did not die. I did not die.
I see.
I am still alive, farming herbs.
There you go.
Herbs.
For now.
Zim,
Wait,
forwarded.
what version? What version are you playing on?
I'll let
SoD.
Zim go first.
All right, so
Okay,
you're on
SoD,
SoD.
respect.
Yeah, Arcos is on SoD, yeah.
Of course. Fuck Kata. Imagine playing that shit. Jesus Christ.
Mate.
Something's wrong with you. It's your doctor.
Arcos, please. Oh, God, I love you.
Baby, just give it a chance. Just,
No. I gave it a chance when it was released, and I lasted 3 days. It's not the same game anymore, and it's a game that I don't enjoy.
mate, fucking... It's just one of those things,
I-
Arcos. I didn't think
I
I'd like
would
my bum
rather-
getting tickled until one day you just say, hey, fuck it, let's give it a go. You only live once.
No, I would rather run up and down Falwood on a server with 400 population than spend my time in Qatar. But that's me.
Man,
Rage.
Arcos, SoD has changed you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Ranking to 14 fucking changed me. That's when I became toxic.
Oh yeah, that's when. That's when. Sure.
Yeah.
I think the only way you
That's
got to
short
14
story.
is because you were toxic. I don't think anyone who
Yeah,
is toxic
exactly.
hit for 14.
Zim Forded, any last words on this? Will everyone come back for phase 4, or is it going to be fucking great? What are we doing?
I think everyone will come. I think a good amount of folks will come back. I don't think it'll be everybody, but I do think a good amount will come back to where we'll see, people AFK into Orgrimmar more often than we do now. People are, off playing retail or playing Cataclysm. Now, I've been playing a little bit of Diablo 4 lately. Like, everybody, a lot more people will come back, but I don't think it'll be as peak as they anticipate.
All this Cata slander. I haven't stopped playing the fucking game in 6 weeks. I'm loving it. But anyway, Forded, how about you? Last words?
It's not going to be the peak of phase 1, but it is going to be a market increase from phase 2 or phase 3 populations. A lot of people wanted level 60 dungeons. That's what they thrived in. That's what they enjoyed. And that's what they miss. Strath, Skolo, Ubers, Elbers, BRD, Dire Maul, all 3 wings of Dire Maul. The level 60 best in slot gear quests, the dungeon tier gear quests, and the bosses that you have to go in for those. A lot of those things can draw the population back if they're done correctly, if they're released correctly. So it's on the dev team.
All right, mate, finish this off.
Population's there.
Finish this off. 5-star review for phase 3 overall. Forded?
4.1.
4.1 from Zim. Forded?
3.5.
3.5. Pigs?
5.
5. There you go, Arcos.
Oh, I'm going to say rating 5. But yeah, I think the overall population would disagree for the entirety of the phase.
So can you say...
What's your number?
What's your number? Just, you've made a simple question difficult.
Oh my god, man. Okay, I'll go 4.
All right, 4. Fred, hit us, round us off.
I said before 4.5. Oh wait, that was for classes. Overall 4. 4 stars.
Overall 4. All right, I'll tell you what, that's a much more higher score than I was sort of half expecting. That's great. All right, I'm glad you guys have had fun through phase 3. Well said. All right, boys, look, that's it for the SoD.
I still think,
Yeah?
Sorry to interrupt. I still think if you are not looking at the good parts, like that ST is a nice raid and like you can world PvP, can be fun, but sometimes maybe not. I think a lot of people have left. Like even before Kata launched, I think there was a huge drop off in participation, just logging in and playing at all. I think for those people, like these metrics that we are using to get our score were probably irrelevant to them.
Well, it's tough because, like, as you're saying, like, all you guys are still playing. I mean, some of you are fucking playing as we do this podcast. Like, you guys are enjoying SoD. But, like we're saying, a lot of people seem to have either gone to Kata or done something else or whatever. So is it the case that, like, SoD's great for the people still playing it, but we also have to somewhat take note that it seems to have taken a hit in population as well at the same time for some reason?
I mean, it's not that it seems to have taken a hit. Like EU servers, like the big PvP EU servers, have gone from rating population of over 30,000 per server down below 10,000. Like we're sitting at, I think, around 6,000 rate logged characters for the past 2 weeks. Of course, a big part of that is Kata, but that was a 50% decrease from the weeks before Kata and then the weeks after Kata launched. Even before that, there's another 50% drop, right?
So
maybe that's people who just wanted to take a 2-week vacation before Kata. Impossible for us to know, right?
But keeping that in mind, Arcos, Fred, let me just throw this to you. Bearing all that in mind, the stats that Arcos just dropped, I guess what I'm getting at is, like I said, it's been really interesting for me looking at SoD as an outsider through the perspective I've had being away from the game for the last 6 weeks. And like I said, like it has the shift has been there on the subreddit of like the tone seems to have moved a little bit. My final question is just that hearing all the scores that you guys just gave phase 3, is the change in commentary on SoD, has it become a bit unfair in your mind, Fred?
Well, I mean, for the commentary about people not playing it and being dead. I mean, I shouldn't say again because I said this over chat. I don't think that's necessarily unfair because, I mean, just from my own experience in playing on Horde, US, Lone Wolf, we went from 10 plus layers at the launch of phase 3 to down to just 1. Obviously not that the layers probably aren't totally full, but that suggests somewhere around a 10-fold decrease, right? In terms of population. So to the extent people are saying that that's fair, when I give my 4-star rating as opposed to 4.5 out of 8 for classes or a perfect 5, that is reflecting that I just think that it lasted too long, and I really just frankly think that's the main issue. I mean, I think incursions were bad. I think that did hurt pop. I thought that the shift from 10 to 20 was bad, given the lock-in problem of there being 18 weeks of people playing with 10-man raids before that. Also, I just ran like 10 mans otherwise, but forget about that. But I think that the main problem is timing. If phase 3 were a 4-week phase, I would give it a 5 out of 5. And so I'm just hopeful that the damage isn't done. I guess let's sort of wait and see. If, when phase 4 launches in a month, if we end up having like a significantly smaller player base and not that many people bounce back and come back, then I certainly would be open to giving it a much lower rating. I'm just not penalizing it all that much for the timing, but perhaps I'm being overly generous, and maybe if it really has like permanently damaged the player base, then giving it a much lower rating just for the timing would be fair.
Okay. How about you other guys, just on that last one before I move on? I know I will move on, I promise. Has SoD been victim of unfair commentary over the last few weeks or not?
But the population decrease is the biggest problem with this phase right now. Is that incursions, we didn't even talk about it, but wild offerings, the wild offering spam in Maraudon killed regular dungeon groups. So, you got a lot of sprint to your gear and log off. There's no repetition. There's no need to repeat full groups or going out and try and find a decent 5-man group anymore.
Fair enough. All right, guys, look, let's move on, or we'll never move on. I'm doing a bad job as host here. We've been here for 2.5 hours or more on the SoD Phase 3 review. That was brilliant. You guys were fantastic. Thank you so much. This next topic might actually not take that long. We'll just see how it goes. I really quickly, Pigs expressed a desire to chat about this a little bit. I definitely want to talk about it a little bit. I'm sure Fred will have some stuff to say. Zim forwarded it. Might not be up your alley, but we'll see where you go with this one. Look, guys, if you're not aware, there has been a bit of a player-driven movement, a community-driven movement to get a fresh classic server going, and this has been happening over on the US servers, over on Deviant Delight there on Era, and people are really salivating. It's been happening for a long time, but some people are really salivating for a fresh vanilla server. So the players have taken it upon themselves to create something, and we're getting a lot of advertisements on the subreddit and whatnot about the growth of this server. 400 new people every day, blah blah blah, and thousands of us. It's thriving. The thriving meme is out there again on the fucking subreddit. I have. How do I explain this? I've checked it out in that I created a toon just to do some slash who's and see some numbers, and it all depends on what people deem to be a successful community-driven moment, I guess. A lot of people do want classic fresh, but they also want a sure thing, and people are understandably dubious at times when they see something like this get started up, going, well, does this have longevity? Does it have legs? I want to sort of know a bit more about it before I commit. I'm not here to... I'm happy to let people know about this movement, but I'm also not here to sort of fall massively. Well, that's not true. I was going to say I'm not going to go one way or the other on whether or not this is something that people should get involved with. I definitely do have my opinions on it, and we'll get into them really soon. But I logged on. Look, I didn't see a lot of people on. There were 150 people online, the Horde, but that was during off-peak hours. So, very off-peak hours. It was like 150 people online on one faction. I was like, it's not necessarily what I want to see, but whatever. But people are on there. They're enjoying it. They're leveling to 60. They say they've got a couple of thousand players or whatnot and hundreds joining every day. Who really knows what it's, people are also saying during peak hours, they're only seeing a couple of hundred people online. I don't know. Boys, Pigs, Fred, Pigs, I might start with you. Have you tried Deviant Delight? Do you have any experience with this? Do you know what's going on?
I have been playing Deviant Delight a lot. I have a little different perspective. I'm not part of the Fresh. I was one of the guys that slipped in, transferred over, and I've been killing people without cause for no good reason.
You're that guy,
just
okay.
engaging in world PvP with high-end gear just to be obnoxious. I'm a shithead. I've killed some of your favorite streamers. I don't want to reveal my guy's name because I'm not going under pigs right now, but I'm having a lot of fun causing mayhem and ruining any of the fun they're trying to have. But I also love the movement. I just want to have a villain role in this arc of my portion of this classic era revival, and I'm loving the revival. It's great. There's a lot of fresh action, and I know there's the meme on Reddit that it's thriving. There are a lot of people around. There's people on the boats. You go into zones. There's people questing. There's a lot of activity, and I don't think it's a meme.
No, that's good to hear because, like I say, I caught myself saying it is a bit unfair for me to talk about the pop when I'm logging on in off-peak hours. Being in Australia, I am getting on when it's late at night in America, and the numbers that I see aren't necessarily indicative of what it's really like for you guys. So it's good to hear that there are, and that was kind of my follow-up question is, are there really people around when you go around trying to be the guy that you're being with the 60 transfer over to kill people? Are you finding victims relatively easily?
Oh yeah, I got a lot of victims. Auction House is dead. That is true. That's not going well. I hear they have a social kind of thing where people trade goods, which is cool. This is the thing. This is classic beauty. They're developing their own system. This is content. They have devised a way to work around gold, and they're trading herbs and items. Anyway, I think that's a fascinating element. Imagine if Classic WoW came out with no auction house and what that would do to it. And that's kind of what's happening on DVD Lite. But yes, there are people roaming around in the capitals. There's dungeon groups for every bracket for sure on both factions.
Okay.
So I'm actually looking at this right now. I just last
same.
It looks my count is somewhere between 300 and 400 online on Horde side right now.
Okay.
Got
it's like a small private
people.
server. It's small, but it's there.
Got 31 people on Order right now. It's like
the only problem
peak
is that all
hours.
content's out.
I just checked classes, and the only class at over 50 was Warrior, which is classic era, so it's to be expected.
So by those numbers, let's say, if you somewhat reflect that on the Alliance side, let's say, what time is it on the East Coast right now? 8 o'clock?
9 p.m.
9
o'clock.
9 p.m. on I guess it's a Saturday night. 9 p.m. on a Saturday night, there's about 800 people online. Okay, so there's a starter sort of rough guess for you based on the numbers that Fred just pulled up. Look, it's one of those things. I'm really caught here because I love community-driven incentives. If he's listening to this, he's not going to like hearing this, but he can fucking deal with it. I'm not a big fan of the organizers of this movement, but I am a big believer in the movement itself. Like, I think that it's cool when the community comes together to build shit like this. I don't have a lot of love for the people who are building it, but anyway.
Are you talking about Lard Toes?
No, I don't know who that is. Oh wait, maybe I do.
Rhyme.
Oh yeah. I think I do know who you're talking about.
I know you don't like name dropping. So
apparently I love name dropping when it's positive.
His name rhymes with Lard Toes, hard nose.
Maybe we're thinking of a different person. DM me. I want to see if we're thinking of the same person. But anyway, there are more than one individual involved in this that I'm not like a massive fan of. But besides the point, it's one of those things with like what is effectively a fresh where I have sat down and, I love Vanilla WoW and I have to make a decision. Am I getting involved in this server? I see numbers like that And I also couple that with the understanding that I have been involved with many servers over the years now, and I generally know how it goes and how the numbers ride the wave. Generally, there are outliers, but, we talk about the lust that people have for fresh and what will this server look like in 2 months. No one has a crystal ball, but if I were to guess, my pessimism says that this is a fresh fad that won't develop. I'm happy to be shouted down and told, Josh, that's not how you build a server. Stop shitting on this thing. But realistically, maybe Fred, then Pigs, how would you feel prognosticating about the future of a server like this, having lived the private server lives that we've lived over the years?
Well, you're definitely fishing around for an answer if you're asking a lawyer. Of course, I risk averse. I think it's going to die. But I'm just, I'm inclined to answer that way. I very well could be wrong. When I think about, for example, the hardcore movement, and I never checked the pop, but I think it grew, didn't it? More and more people kept playing on, what was it, Bloodsail Buccaneers or whatever?
Yeah. And hardcore and Turtle WoW are the outliers that I'm kind of talking about. Turtle WoW was slow for a very long time upon its launch, and only later in sort of its life did it really blow up.
Well, it had a patch where it changed the class balance and then got a lot of population.
Oh yeah, but regardless of what they do with the server, it was a private server that, on launch, everyone's going, oh, DOA, DOA, no one fucking plays it. And it just sort of sat mired in low numbers for a year or so, I think, and then it took off. So most private servers don't survive that first year of low numbers or whatever, or first 6 months, but Turtle WoW seemed to do okay. But we've seen the launch of so many private vanilla servers that, and I'll give you the latest, greatest example was, what was that one about a year ago? I forget. Anyway. Everlook, that I was very, very excited for. I pumped up Everlook. Everlook launched, and I never forget, the first day or two of Everlook, it only had and I say only, but it only had 2,000 people involved playing. And I immediately said, that is nowhere near high enough a figure for day one. This thing is going to die a horrible death very quickly. And it fucking did.
Yep.
And so that's why when I say, oh, there's 800 people online right now on Deviant Delight, which means there's going to be people offline too. So let's say there's maybe, 12, 1,500, maybe I'll be very generous and say 2,000 people again interested in Deviant Delight. It's still not high enough a number to survive the fresh fad, in my opinion, because in 8 weeks, once all those people, the casuals have had their fun and they go away, what happens to the server? It usually is a grim outlook for me. But again, I'm not saying that will happen. That's just like Fred saying, the sort of risk-averse guess that I'm making. So I'm not getting involved because I don't want to put hundreds of hours into a character that in 2 months' time everyone's decided they don't want to play around with anymore. Tell me, Pigs, am I being too pessimistic?
Yeah, I think you're being pessimistic. I really do disagree with that notion that a lot of people have, because it's with any version of WoW, it's well, is this gonna last? Is this gonna last? Does my character mean anything? It's your character means nothing. It's a stupid video game. It's called WoW. It's all about right now. Your character is never gonna matter. It's never going anywhere. They might delete a server someday. Who gives a shit? Just play for right now, and that's what Fresh is all about, and that's what's happening on this server, man. Don't think about the future with WoW. You have to think about the now. And that's my opinion.
I agree with you mostly. I guess the only thing, Fred's going to jump in and probably say what I'm going to say. The difference with WoW is that, there is a bit of appeal to that raiding scene and I'd love to do a Molten Core fresh. And then you spend the time getting the character to 60 and you're ready to do your Molten Core. But by the time you got there, everyone's left. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean, but there's this general attitude with WoW that it's just oh, well, this is going to matter next phase. The gear's going to get overwritten. The next raid's going to come out. It's yeah, it keeps coming out. It keeps going. The thing keeps chugging along. Are you ever going to enjoy the moment? I feel like there's a lot of WoW players who keep thinking about the future, and the only time you can have fun is right now.
Okay, so I agree with that. But if I level a character all the way up to 60, I'm planning to do raids. I'd like to do 40-man raids and such like that. And if there isn't 40 people online to do the raid, then it's like, okay, I guess I'll just go farm stuff
I think you should
that
only
I
play
won't
the
put on the
server if
auction
you like
house.
leveling. I think you should only play the server you like leveling.
There you
There's
go.
no way
All
this
right,
has
that's
any
the
level.
This
There
is
we
a
go.
leveling era style
right.
server. This is not a
That
raiding
checks.
era server.
Okay,
It's just
that's important.
It doesn't have the population to support active raids right now. You might have 1, maybe 2 raiding guilds per faction, and that's it. You're not going to have the class balance or
I
the
think, like,
population balance to support more than that. At this
I
time,
think
at
it's
this
only
time, it could balloon.
It could, but I think right now it's the waiting room for phase 4 or the next phase of Cataclysm. And as soon as that stuff launches, it's like it'll go kaput.
But as
think about
Pigs
it
is
this way,
saying, sorry, you go for it.
If you've never played Classic and you want to know what 50 to 60 is going to bring for phase 4, yeah, you don't get your runes. Granted, you don't get your ST raid gear, but you get to look at the dungeons that maybe you never played before. And short of going to Cataclysm and creating a new character and going backwards, this is probably the next best server for you if you don't want to do the private server scene.
Yeah, that checks out. I respect that in that context. Yeah, for sure. Like, if you've played Classic before, I don't think it has that much appeal at the moment.
Correct,
Unless it's just a waiting room.
But for newcomers to Classic who are kind of stalled out with SoD and don't have a character in Cata, well, how do you keep them? Well, community-driven event like this, that might keep a small percentage of them going. And it looks like it is.
And like Pigs is saying, I agree with him in that if the player is okay with this, there's nothing wrong with just living in the moment. Just leveling a character. I don't care if this thing gets deleted tomorrow or if the whole population goes away tomorrow. If I play this for the next 2 months and I have a good time getting to level fucking 46 or whatever it might be, that was all worth it. I had fun in the moment. It's not about raiding or fucking taking this character somewhere or the lifelong longevity of the server. That's if you're okay with that mentality, then go nuts. Dive in. It's great. And I might still do it. I don't know. But it's one of those things.
Treat it like a single player game.
Yeah.
That just you happen to run across people here and there, but it's now your single player open world adventure.
Yeah, I'm not trying to dissuade people from trying this server. I mean, I elected to fucking talk about it and advertise it on the podcast, so there's thousands of people hearing about this thing they might not have known about. But like, I'm not trying to dissuade people from trying it out, but I'm just telling you why I have been super hesitant personally to give it a go, because I kind of have seen how these things have gone in the past. But it's also very indicative of, we've known for a while now there has been a big desire amongst the vanilla Andes for a fresh vanilla server. And that's why, people can talk about, if they want to have a go at me for being negative on this topic so far, people might blame my general attitude towards vanilla Andes over the last 12 months. I've found myself thinking very differently about vanilla enthusiasts over the last year. In seeing how they've behaved online once their toy, got, I don't want to say taken away because it's still available, but once their toy wasn't the popular toy anymore, seeing the bulk of vanilla enthusiasts and how they act online is fucking hilarious. They're idiots, the bulk of them. And I say that as someone who made his bones, fucking being a vanilla Andy and talking to this audience. And the majority of people listening to this podcast don't fall within this category because they're rational, fucking, smart, vanilla enthusiast or video game enjoyers. But like, there's so many fucking, I'm just getting toxic. There's so many vanilla Andys out there who really give it to people for playing any other video game, and it's just, you're pieces of shit as soon as you do that. You're such cunts. I fucking hate the lot of you. I know who you are. You know who you are. The people I see on fucking Twitter and the subreddit who just jump on anyone for enjoying any other version of WoW or any other MMO. Oh, vanilla's the only fucking game. You're an idiot. You're a fucking piece of shit. Go fuck yourself. No one cares what you have to say.
So is a vanilla Andy and a retail Timmy?
Yeah, I guess. But like, I mean, Pigs, you know what I'm talking about when I say that, right?
I know what you're talking about, but I'm one of these guys you hate, man. I am an obnoxious vanilla enjoyer, and I'm really sad at the state that it's in some ways.
Yeah, but you're literally
we have
playing.
been robbed of our toys, and I'm sad.
But you're literally playing SoD and enjoying it, a different version of the game.
Because I have to.
Oh, fuck off. Fuck.
Oh,
this I have to. It's all I got right now, man.
You can go
Give me
play
classic
Era.
fresh, no changes. I want to go back to 2019 COVID chain healing. Please. I want to drop Wind Fury and turn my brain off. Please.
There you go.
I hear there's a
Yeah.
good server called Deviant Delight that started a new movement.
Yeah.
It's going well.
I hear they're looking for healers, man.
There you go. Oh, Pigs, I'll call you a piece of shit. But like, you've played other MMOs as well, haven't you?
No.
Oh, fucking all right. You're the worst. I'll give it to you then. You and your kind are the worst thing.
I did a little RuneScape dabbling as a 10-year-old, sure.
There you go. There you go. All right. Well, Pigs, relay this message to your people to fucking just, we'll give, I'm sure Blizzard will give you what you guys want. Just fucking lay off others for liking other things as well, for having more fucking mature tastes and palates.
Absolutely not.
Mates, look, Pigs, let's get you going. Fucking, what do you think the likelihood is of an official fresh server coming within the next 12 months?
I think it's pretty high. I don't think it's going to happen this year. A lot of all my fresh boys think it's happening. I don't think it is. I think by June next year, yeah. It has to. I think they would be dumb not to. But Blizzard does dumb things sometimes, so I don't know. I think they would have an easy win if they gave us a little a 3-month fresh. Yeah, it would die after 3 months, I think. I don't think it would go as long as original classic, but maybe speed it up, drop the phases faster, and I think you'd have a little sect of the classic base coming back for that.
My prediction was the only point of consideration might be around January or February of 25. And my reasoning for that was there's, in my opinion, and I'm happy to be proven wrong, if an official vanilla server launched tomorrow, I'd fucking roll on it. But, given the product rollout schedule that we've got proposed over the next 12 months, and there's only so much cannibalization that you can manufacture there or be willing to handle, moving people from product to product. I think there's absolutely 0% chance that you get a fresh vanilla while SoD is still alive, because my thing was the second you launch a fresh vanilla, SoD dies. SoD is just brutally murdered by a fresh vanilla. You'd still have people playing SoD, but it would take a significant chunk out of that player base. Would you agree with that or disagree with that, Pigs?
No, I totally agree. They'd be shooting themselves in the foot because it's the same demographic.
Exactly. It's the exact same crowd, demographic, fucking target user base, whatever you want to call it. So then you go that you have to launch it either once SoD is done or pretty much done. So I'm sort of circling that, SoD came out in November. If you go January, February of 25, that's 15 months of SoD. That's when I think they would be more inclined to do it than any other time. Does anyone think that sounds kind of right, or you've got a more likely timetable in your minds?
I think that's about right. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. If they release it while SoD is still active, just shooting yourself in the foot 100%. But I think that they'll probably wait until Cataclysm's towards the end just to kind of keep the player base onto something. You know what I'm saying? So like last raid of Cataclysm, and then, oh, hey, by the way, here's fresh servers coming out to keep you tied over.
Yeah, fresh will work when SoD is near its end and Cataclysm is near its end. It's just the natural progression. That do we really want the next title after Cataclysm?
Yeah, they do.
No.
People absolutely want MOP.
Pandaria, right?
Yeah, I'm not a MOP
PvP.
guy, but there's a lot of people calling for it.
But then, do you want the next one after that, which is what, Draenor?
Yep. Nope.
They'll do it. They'll do it. They'll go to Legion. Trust me.
They're
Book
gonna
it
do
in.
it.
They'll go through to Legion.
They're going to do all of them. They're
No,
going to
no,
do all of them,
they'll
and they're going to
stop.
funnel it into retail.
They'll
And it's going to be
stop.
the same game, and they're going to merge them in about 5 years. I guarantee you.
Yeah, I can't wait for classic Dragonflight.
Yeah.
It's not even a meme. That's going to happen in the next 5 to 7
It
years. I
might.
guarantee you.
It might. My bet would still be stopping after Legion, but you're right in that it's far from worthy of being ruled out that they just do them all.
Right,
Well,
but
MMOs are so weird since they're live service. It's like, who doesn't like to go back and play it? I still go back and play Banjo-Kazooie, and it sucks that WoW's like, I can't go back and play TBC right now. I can't do it. And that's why there's a market for this, and
Yeah.
they should
Oh,
bring
and
all of
people-
them back all the time.
And on the private server subreddit, there are people, like, you know, whether it's a smaller crowd or whatever, there are people calling for private servers of BFA, private servers of Shadowlands. They do exist.
I feel like it's a small population, though.
yeah, that's a very small population.
It's
Oh,
like
yeah,
the
yeah.
population on Devious Delight right now.
Oh, I totally disagree with you guys. There's
Like
a
the
reason, like people
population
thought
of
Kata was going to
Deviants,
fail. Kata had the most subscribers of all WoW players. There's people who romanticize that. I know it's not us because I started in 04. I never even played Kata, but there's people, and there's millions of them that was their first time playing WoW.
Yeah, it's true.
Not
It's-
disagreeing. The whole reason why Kata Classic is really taking off is because you have a bunch of people who never got to play Kata, or only played expansions that came after Kata. Started with Mist, or started with Draenor, or started with Legion. And then you have the people that didn't play any of those expansions and started with Classic 2019 and have stayed with their character the entire way. You have a lot of those people that are just like, hey, I'm reliving, or I'm experiencing something I never got to experience. So if they brought back fresh Classic, it would have to be when Kata is going to be at its lowest point and when SoD is over. Those two things have to coincide with the fresh.
Fair enough. Pigs, how much hate do you reckon I'm going to get for the Deviant Delight enjoyers?
No, I think at least you brought it up. You're talking about it. Not many people are talking about it. But I do agree with everyone on the call. It is a flash in the pan, yes. But it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, and I really want to stress this again. If you are angry about me saying I'm not playing on Deviant Delight, and you know I'm concerned that it's going to die in a couple of months, I'm sitting here saying to people, like, go play it. If you've got a hankering for fresh vanilla, and you're frustrated that Blizzard hasn't delivered an official option, just go check out Deviant Delight. And the Europeans will get very, very, very upset because they do have a European fresh going as well. I wish I remembered the server. Someone please help me. They scream about it on every subreddit thread. Fuck, I better look it up or I'll get hate mail. If someone knows in Twitch chat, yell it out. There is a European option. I don't know. Fucking search the subreddit. You'll figure it out. You smart people. Yeah, anyway. So yeah, that's that. We talked about it. I just, it's such a hard pill for me to swallow leveling in vanilla again. It's so hard. I started up this rogue on Deviant Delight and I just stopped myself at level 3 and went like, am I seriously doing this again? Like, am I doing the 150 hours to level 60? And I just stopped and said, nah, I can't. I fucking can't. And that's why, like, things like SoD are getting so popular with, like, the expedited leveling journey. And I know everyone in vanilla, and you're not wrong to say, leveling is the journey. It's all about the leveling. And I've said that many times years ago on the show. I love leveling. All I do is level characters. But I'm just so burnt out from leveling in vanilla at one times. I need more time before I can do it again. I don't know. It's so rough.
You need a few years off in between fresh servers. You can't just go from fresh to fresh to fresh.
And a lot of people can. I think I can't. I was that guy for years. I went from fresh to fresh to fresh. I have leveled.
Right,
God
you're
knows
my
how many
age,
characters.
dude. You're my age, dude. You ain't doing that at this age.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it's just that I don't want to hear people say like, "Oh, Josh, you're against vanilla now. You're a piece of shit. You don't respect the leveling journey." I absolutely do. I've done it a million times in recent memory. I've done it so many times now. Right now, I kind of like shudder at the thought of doing it again. But anyway,
You don't like when you come into the Barrens, you got a full quest log. You don't like that?
I don't
And the
like.
music comes in. Oh God! And you're looking for a Wayland Caverns group. You don't like that?
It's the total number that bothers me because I know it's 150 hours to cap, and I'm just like I keep thinking of that as I'm leveling, just that 150 or 200 if I'm going slow. You know what I mean? Figure that I can't get past, and just
Well,
go. I
it's
can't.
200 if you're more or less solo. It's 150 if you can find groups and aren't fighting for mob kills.
Yeah, I mean, I just fucking did it in hardcore not that long ago as well on a warrior. Like, it's just I love vanilla WoW so much, but I'm just it needs to be the right time and place, and I'm not 100% sure if Deviant Delight is that time and place for me, but it will be for a lot of other people.
Well,
It's a little early.
you're also outside of the peak hours for Deviant Delight with your time zone and
That,
your ability to play.
That, and
So-
also I'm enjoying Kata. Like, people can throw stones at me if they want. Fucking, I'm not apologizing for it. I'm enjoying Kata, so it's tough to juggle. And I'm playing Final Fantasy 14. I'm fucking doing shit in 14. I'm playing Kata. There's only so many MMOs you can fucking juggle.
And you have a full-time job.
No, I'm on holiday. I'm fucking sabbatical at the moment, so I've got the time. I'm fucking looking for work at the moment. So if anyone knows any fucking gigs in the, I'll tell you what, Blizzard, if you're hiring, I'll take a communications gig. I'm considering getting out of law, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, so I've got the time.
I don't know. They might need some help in the legal department, there, buddy.
Yeah, but even with all the time on my hands now, Forted, it's still like, you know, even if you said to gamers, like, go take a 3-month holiday where all you can do is game all day, it's still a lot to play multiple MMOs.
Oh, yeah. I'm not disagreeing, dude. I'm just saying, like, 2019 was the perfect storm for vanilla WoW. You had COVID. You had retail that was pretty much on its death legs at that point. You had no other classic content, and you were the first of its kind officially supported from Blizzard classic fresh. That was lightning in a bottle.
It's a perfect storm.
It is a perfect storm to recapture that, and that's what a lot of classic players want. Is they want to recapture that moment. They want to log in and see 8,000 people online, everybody spamming, looking for dungeons. They want to be able to go out and quest and see zones filled with people and world PvP going off in STV constantly. They want that feeling again. It's very unlikely to happen the way that it happened in 2019. It just...
That's true.
You'd have to almost manufacture another outbreak.
That's a good question, though, Pigs. Like, realistically, let's say Blizzard does say, hey, guys, February 2025, load up, we're doing fresh classic. In all honesty, as hard as it is to answer, how much interest do you think that garners?
Yeah, 2019 will never happen again. It'll never happen again. But the new one will be its own thing. And I think it'll be just as special. It'll be the people who have stuck around. It'll be smaller. I think it'll still be fun. And I don't know. Yeah, interest question. I don't know how much it tracks. Maybe 5% of the 2019 numbers. Also realize it was like every human being and their mom played WoW on that day. Like Asmongold, fucking Nick Merckx played WoW. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was insane. Like that'll never happen again. I think we bring back 5%, and I think that would be good. It's the 5% we care about.
Okay, that's why you're transferring level 60s
20%.
to slaughter them all.
Oh yeah, dude, I got a teabag, bro.
That's it.
Dude, you just want the lambs to come to the slaughter.
That's it.
I do want some more casuals. We need Asmongold to play WoW again, please.
All right. Guys, we might wind it up there. I mean, Pigs, if you wanted to say the last word, if I've been too negative, you can throw in a big positive thing about Deviant Delight. But other than that, I think we're all done, guys.
Nah, you're good. Deviant Delight's a flash in the pan. Don't go there unless you
Unless you're serious about your
want to
vanilla.
level through WoW again.
There you go. All right, guys. Look, let's say our goodbyes. You've all been brilliant. Thank you so much. Pigs, anything to plug? Anyone to shout out?
Nothing, man. I'm just I'll be in SoD, bro. Pull up. I'm in Ungrow Crater farming arcane crystals.
All right. We'll find out your 60s name in Deviant Delight and broadcast it to the world so they can hunt you down. Forded, anything to shout out? Anyone to anything to plug?
Shout out to my family, taking care of the dog while I got to be on a podcast for once in a blue moon.
That's the
But other
way.
than that, SoD Phase 4, come back, enjoy it, build a new community, brothers.
Very good, very good. As my dogs go ballistic in the background. Zim, mate, thank you so much. I know you could only duck in late, but it's always a pleasure having you. Anything to shout out?
No, just happy to be here. I'm checking out Cata 2, and I'm still rolling around on Lone Wolf NA. So catch me online, team.
That's the way. Kata's fun, people. Give it a go. Anyway, I'm going to go play some Kata now and end this stream. Guys, thank you so much. It has been brilliant. I'll end the podcast recording there. And yeah, thank you, stream. Thank you, guys. I'm gonna do this offline and spam some RDF with some friends and keep playing.
I thought
some
you
Kata.
didn't like to group with people. Come on, Josh. Stick to your guns.
I don't like. I don't like being forced to do group content when I'm like leveling in the open worlds. Like, I want to be able to efficiently level on my own when I want to do it. I want solo play should be viable. That's my whole thing. Solo play should be viable in an MMO.
And that's a great sign off.
Absolutely. All right, guys, you have a good night. I'm going to go have some breakfast and play some Kata, and I'll chat to you all later. Thanks so much again, guys.
Good night, dude.
See y'all.
Bye. All right, thanks, stream. We shall see you all next time. I guess I'll be around next weekend. Mike, I got to figure out what character I'm playing. Don't get too excited. We got to see what's going on. And yeah, guys, I'll catch you later. Bye, Z's.